GF cheated with brother. Today is the last day I will ever talk to my girlfriend or my brother. I'm typing this in a bathroom stall as she, him and a bunch of our friends drink in the bar. They don't know that I know what they did. They don't know I've seen their texts to each other. My friends don't know I know they covered for them on multiple occasions. I'm enjoying this last night and then blocking them on everything and moving to Chicago and never contacting them again. Some of best comments. Commenter 1. Congrats for making that decision. Many people do not have the courage to do that. Will you tell your parents about it? I hope karma will get them. Update us when you move. Reply, not sure if I'll tell them yet. I'm sure they'll work it out if I don't. Commenter 2. It's up to you, but I'd explain to them if I were you before leaving. At least show them the conversation between your brother and ex-girlfriend. You don't want your brother to be the one to paint the picture for them. He could make you out to be the villain, somehow, if he figures out why you left and goes to your parents. Commenter 3. Please OP, listen to this person. Don't let your ex and bro control the conversation. Once you're gone, you need to explain the truth to your parents and also to your friends before you block them. Update. I sent the screenshots of the texts to my parents and the partners of the friends who helped cover it up. All their numbers have been blocked. A friend of mine who wasn't involved is going to text me how they all react when they find out. Currently at the airport. My flight is in an hour. Thank you all for the words of support. Made me feel a lot less shitty about this whole thing. Comments. Commenter 1. What did your parents say about what your brother did? Reply. Haven't opened the message yet. Commenter 2. Not sure where you are coming from, but it's only 16 degrees in Chicago right now. Dress warm. Reply. From California. Don't worry, I've always preferred the cold. Commenter. Nice work texting the partners of your friends. That'll stir shit up. Good that you've also got a real friend still in with these clowns so you can hear the reaction. Glad you're out of there and off to your new life in Chicago. Enjoy the fresh start, mate. Update. 1 day later. Update. Landed safe. Could barely sleep thinking about everything. Apparently, 2 of the friends that covered it up are denying knowing anything, and this has caused a huge fight between them and my brother and my ex-brother. And ex seemed pretty humiliated by the whole thing. She hasn't been able to stop crying. World's smallest violin plays. My parents have supported me, saying he's completely in the wrong and they're ashamed of him for what he's done. They're a little upset with me for moving, but they've ultimately agreed they can't blame me. I still don't think it's settled in that I won't be coming home for birthdays or Christmas or anything yet. One of the friends who helped cover it has already been dumped by their girlfriend. She has sent me a long text about how she feels sorry for me and how we've all been blindsided by extremely selfish behavior. She apologized and said she wished she knew what was going on. My ex and brother are attempting to contact me. Their numbers are blocked on my phone. My good friend told me they're asking to use other people's phones to talk to me. Not sure if they're gonna deny it or admit it. I don't care, to be honest. I'm done with both of them. The only apology I've had is from someone who wasn't even to blame, just someone who dated one of the friends. I think that tells me everything I need to know about these people. Chicago is beautiful. I'm headed into the restaurant I'll be working at next week and gonna introduce myself to everyone before I start. Tonight's agenda is getting plastered and getting laid. I've been calm with everyone up to this point. I deserve to blow off some steam. Thank you all for your kind words and support. Comments. Commenter. I just read your post and here is the update. Perfect timing. I'm glad things are going well. Focus on your new job, your new place to live, and leave those toxic fuckers behind. Really awful what they did to you, and I hope in time you can heal. Welcome to the Midwest. You'll like it here if you like the cold. Stories number 2. Aita for proving that my ex lied in court. Edit. Since a lot of you are saying that this story is fake, please tell me how I can prove it right or how I can attach a pic of Milo. Also, the friends I talk about aren't actually my friend. They are the ones I meet through Sarah. So yeah, my college friends are still with me. This happened a few months ago, and I still feel conflicted about it. My ex Sarah, 28F, and I, 29M, split up last year. It wasn't amicable, and things were ugly when she filed for custody of our dog Milo. Milo is a GR we got together for me. I used to pass out a lot, but I recovered from it now. I was the only one who trained him, paid for his food, vet bills, and even his adoption fees. Milo is basically my best friend, and Sarah knows it. She is trying to get custody just to piss me off. Sarah's argument in court was that she was Milo's primary caregiver and that I was too busy with work to properly care for him. She painted this sob story about how I used to beat both Milo and Sarah, and it was completely false. She even bought fake photos of her scars and her playing with Milo, which were obviously staged after we broke up. The thing is, I had evidence of my own. See, Milo has a very specific routine. He hates peanut butter, which is unusual for dog, and he only responds to certain commands. I taught him in French. Sarah doesn't speak French and didn't even know about the command because she never helped train him. So in court I calmly asked if I could demonstrate Milo's training. The judge allowed it, so I brought Milo into the courtroom. I have him commands in French, and he followed every single one perfectly. Then just to be sure, I asked Sarah to try. She tried saying something like, sit, roll over, Milo just stared at her like she was speaking gibberish. After that, the judge asked Milo to make the decision, and without surprise he ran towards me instead of Sarah. The judge ruled in my favor. But Sarah was furious. She accused me of humiliating her on purpose and drugging Milo. Her family and friends are now calling me a petty jerk who just wanted to win rather than find a compromise. Some of my own friends say I could have handled it more diplomatically instead of showing her up in court. Stories number 3. Friendship ended because of friend's vegan wife. I know I'm partially at fault for the friendship ending, and I'm willing to accept my judgment, and it's really long. Sorry. November of last year I, female, went to visit a friend, we'll call him Kevin, and stayed at his and his wife's house. Early last year, Kevin and his wife, we'll call her Karen, moved a couple states away. For context, we are all over the age of 35 and Kevin and I were part of a friend group from an old job. Another couple from the friend group went on this trip as well, but they were also visiting family and stayed with them prior to the move. Our friend group didn't really have much interaction with Karen as she didn't really come spend time with us. She was always invited, just rarely joined. They never hosted us at their old house. They are vegan. I am not. Well, Kevin is not full-fledged vegan, as he eats fish. However, his wife does the grocery shopping, so everything outside of fish is vegan, and he eats/drinks it. He buys his own fish and has a mini kitchen to prep his own meals away from hers. For even more context, Karen is not a vegan for health reasons. She is the type that brings up their vegan status with every conversation, no matter how irrelevant it is to the topic, makes fun of people that eat meat or use things made with animal byproducts, accuses people of murder, etc. Except she leaves Kevin alone. She calls any food that is not vegan trash and garbage. Example: when we would hang out before they moved and she was there, she would always ask how people could eat such garbage. Anytime any of us would have meat, it was annoying, but I never got confrontational with her about it. The day before I visited them, Karen sent a short list of rules that I had to follow regarding food. One of those rules was that I couldn't store any non-vegan food items in either kitchen. I did ask if I could bring milk, and she agreed, but I had to keep it in the fish fridge. All of the food I ate at their house tasted off, even the breakfast waffles and then the tuna casserole that Kevin made for the two of us Saturday afternoon for lunch. It's not like it tasted spoiled. It was just off, weird, a little gross. I've never eaten vegan, so I figured it was just that, food made with vegan ingredients. I couldn't really eat anything after a few bites I had, fortunately, packed a few protein, non-vegan, snacks that I kept in my room, inside a zippered canvas bag. At the bottom of my suitcase, I was not specifically prohibited from bringing snacks to keep in my room. I kept my trash and disposed of it after I left. I did eat some street food from the market. I, Kevin, and our friends went to Saturday after lunch, and I ate like a horse at the restaurant we went to that Saturday night, and I am not ashamed. My husband and I are supposed to be going to visit them this weekend, and Karen called me a couple of hours ago. She wanted to tell me that I wouldn't be allowed to bring any milk this time around. She also said that my husband and I also couldn't bring any snacks and that I should have asked last time. Apparently, she had gone through my suitcase when Kevin and I and our friends were out at the market and found my snacks. In addition to that, she also told me that she replaced my milk with almond milk and thought that was just hilarious. I drank some milk Friday night before bed and one glass on Saturday morning. Then Kevin told me he used it to make our waffles and wanted to save the rest for the casserole at lunch. What actually happened was that after I poured my glass Saturday morning before breakfast, Karen dumped the rest of it out and replaced it with almond milk. Kevin knew it but didn't tell me. I never went to look for it because he said he wanted to save it. The waffles and casserole were made with almond milk. I was so mad that I knew I wouldn't be able to say anything nice. I told her I had another call coming in and hung up. After I calmed down, I called her back to ask why she went through my suitcase and why she dumped my milk. She told me that it was her house and she had a right to know. So that's why she was allowed to go through my things. She said she dumped my milk because nobody can tell the difference between cow's milk and almond milk, and that I wouldn't have known if she hadn't told me. I called her a controlling, self-centered freak, told her that Kevin has a stash of real cheese hidden in the fish fridge that he sneaks into his food, and hung up on her. Then I called Kevin. He sided with her and told me that I pushed the line when I asked to bring milk and that it was incredibly rude to order meat. When we went to dinner we argued, and I told him that it seems our lives are going in different directions and that we don't need to be friends anymore. I know I probably should have asked if it was okay to have non-vegan snacks in my room, or I could have kept them in my car. I also shouldn't have called her names. I was a guest at their house and Kevin has me half convinced that as a guest, I should have respected Karen's veganism and not had any non-vegan food at all. My husband thinks they're completely in the wrong and that since their lifestyle is not one the majority of the population follows, they should have made exceptions. Since Kevin gets a fish exception, he's also as pissed as I am that she went through my stuff, and he also pointed out that if I was allergic to almonds, I could have gotten very ill. He says that I'm better off and thinks ending the friendship was reasonable. He and Kevin got along, but just like Karen, my husband is a spouse of someone in the friend group, so they weren't really close. A few minutes ago I got the "hey can we talk" text, and honestly, I don't know if I'm going to respond. I'm just kind of done with it. Edit. I'm so sorry that I can't respond to all of your comments. Just know that I am reading them. I'm calling Kevin on my lunch break today and will post an update after since so many people have asked for one. Top comment. Going through your suitcase because it's her house. I don't even go into my guest room when I have guests because I want to respect their privacy. She's a nutty control freak. I wouldn't want to be friends anymore either. She had no right to replace your milk after allowing you to bring it. She had absolutely no right to go through your bags. She is a crazy controlling weirdo, so I don't see why you would apologize for anything you said. I certainly would never spend time with someone who thinks they can control what you eat at a restaurant. I'm guessing the only reason this friendship lasted was because you never saw the wife. You could maybe try that. Reply. Right, I would be shitting in her toilet and not flushing just in case she wanted to inspect that too. Commenter. I would have told her you could tell because you thought her cooking was rancid, but you were simply too polite to say anything, and that's why you ate anything in sight when you left her house. And if she even thinks about snooping through your property, you will leave something worth finding, like a Ziploc bag of human shit. Don't worry, it was donated willingly, so it's vegan, but not really because you totally ate meat in there. Update 1 day later. This is a long update, but it's the last one first. Thank you to everyone who responded. Your comments were not only helpful, but others made me cackle in a very unladylike manner. Secondly, I wanted to clarify that the bag Karen found in my suitcase had emergency cash and a credit card in it, as well as snacks. The reason it was hidden in my suitcase was to keep it safe, not to hide food. I wasn't sneaking it in. Important later. But I did have protein bars in there just in case I took issue with their food. Naughty me. I responded to Kevin yesterday and told him I needed some time to think and I'd get back to him today. I took some of your advice and reached out to our friend group last night after the group chat, and also talking just with the friends that were down that weekend. I learned some things. Long story short, out of our core group of 6, I'm the only one that kept up with Kevin. The only reason those 2 friends accepted Kevin's invitation to go down that weekend was because I was going. Visiting family was a bonus. After I took the rest of the night to think about and sleep on it, I realized that all of you are right about Kevin's complicity regarding the switching of the milk. I didn't pay as much attention as I should have because I was so focused on the fact that Karen switched the milk to begin with. I also realized he had never actually said anything in response to my telling him that Karen confessed to going through my stuff. When I called him yesterday, he had changed the subject instead, talking about how it was rude to ask to bring milk. Anyway, I called Kevin on my lunch break today and ran down the list of issues. Karen going through my suitcase, him not telling me about the milk switch, Karen switching the milk to begin with after telling me I could bring it, and how what I eat is none of their business as long as I'm not contaminating their food. Basically, he told me the only thing he would apologize for was saying that it was rude to order non-vegan food at the restaurant. He said that since they had plenty of food in the house for me to eat, he didn't have to apologize for anything else. Apparently Karen had told him not to tell me about the milk switch because she was trying to prove that I couldn't tell the difference between vegan and non-vegan food, essentially the same thing she said to me yesterday. I told him that since I didn't eat any of it except a few bites, clearly I could tell the difference. He also said that he was eventually going to tell me about it but forgot. I said that she could have just said no when I asked to bring milk instead of being a swampy butthole about it. He said that although he didn't agree with Karen going through my things, I wasn't owed an apology because I broke the rules by sneaking meat into their house. There was a meat stick in that canvas bag. I told him that I had only been told I couldn't have non-vegan food in both kitchens and that it was left over from my drive to their house. As long as I didn't switch it with their food like a certain someone, I hadn't done anything wrong. The last thing he told me was that the other reason I wasn't getting an apology from him was because after I told Karen about his cheese stash yesterday afternoon, she unplugged his fish fridge. He didn't get home from work until late, and according to his Google search, all the refrigerated fish had to be thrown away. This is apparently my fault. He said that we were even now. He didn't tell me about the milk switch, and I snitched about his cheese. I tried explaining that they weren't the same thing and that I wasn't responsible for what she did, but he didn't care and said he knew I wasn't allergic to nuts. I don't remember ever discussing that with him, but whatever. I asked if he truly believed that I didn't deserve any apologies from either of them, and he said yes. I told him that if he couldn't see what they did wrong and apologize, I couldn't help him, and to give me a call when he got his balls back from his wife. He hung up on me. Yesterday, I thought I owed him an apology because I was wrong. I thought if I gave him one, we could maintain a friendship. Today I think that the problem was that I was holding on to something that didn't exist anymore until you guys reality checked me. I ignored a lot of things and gaslit myself, so thank you everybody for the smack to the back of the head. Everybody should have people like you in their lives. Thanks for reading. Stories number 4. Devastated and spiraling. I am 35, found a condom wrapper in my wife's 34F car. Now what? We have been together for about 10 years and married for 6. We have no kids now, but we were planning to start trying pretty much now. We are both very active, going to the gym, eating healthy, and are both in relatively great shape. My wife is gorgeous with a phenomenal body, but I would probably consider myself maybe a 5 or 6 out of 10 on the attractiveness scale. I realize that, but we have always had a really strong relationship. We started as great friends, realized we were just right for each other, and that developed into true romantic love and devotion. The sex was always fantastic. There were never any issues there with quality or frequency. I was washing my wife's car, as I do pretty often. In the course of cleaning the interior, I found an open empty condom wrapper under her passenger seat. We don't use condoms since she had always been on birth control. I am driving myself insane with all the stories and scenarios running through my brain. She spends a lot of time at the gym working with weights and doing her cardio like 3 hours 4 days a week, so there are frequent times when we are apart. She has never given me a reason to suspect she has been unfaithful. I know I have to confront her, but I'm scared to death of what might be the truth. She is my world and I can't imagine starting a family with anyone else. I'm afraid I'm going to break. Edit to add. Wow, you all are amazing. I am so touched by the DMs and heartfelt responses. I had no idea I would get so many responses so quickly. I wanted to add some details to save me from having to reply to all the common comments. My wife has never given me a reason to think she has cheated before this. She has always been loving and affectionate, and we were looking forward to starting a family very soon. Some have speculated that kids coming soon may have led her to one last fling. I don't know, possibly. We are an open book to each other with our finances pretty much entirely tied up as one. She comes from a pretty upper middle class background. Her parents are very comfortable. I come from a home where my parents were fighting their own demons, and so I didn't get a lot of attention growing up. Not a criticism. It was easy to get lost in the shuffle of my parents' problems. We are cordial but not super close. I am way closer to her family and I love her mom and dad and younger sister. Financially we are fine together. We make about $150,000 per year. She makes $60,000 as a law firm assistant. I make $90,000 as an auto technician. We own a house together that we were able to purchase with a down payment from her family. If worst comes to worst, I have no interest in fighting for that money. It is theirs and they can have it back if we end up selling the house. Some have commented about the amount of time she is at the gym. We go to separate gyms. She gets off work at 4 and goes straight to the gym where she does a class, then works out with weights and the cardio on the treadmill. I was never suspicious of the time she spends there. By the time she gets home, I am already there and she jumps directly in the shower, and then we make dinner together and hang out. As far as a lawyer or an investigator, there's no way I could do that in secret with the way we manage our finances, so that's out for now. Someone explained to me how to get detailed phone records from Visible, so that's my next step. I will get the records when I have some time to myself and see if there is a number that she's in contact with a lot that I do recognize. I'll try to figure out where to go from there and let you all know. Some of comments. Editor's note: there were a lot of comments. I chose a few to demonstrate what the general vibe of the comments were that OOP was responding to. Commenter: have you had the car since it was new? Is it possible a mechanic used the car during a service? Did anyone ever borrow the car? Was it ever left unlocked during a vacation? OOP: the ironic thing is I am an auto mechanic by trade. I work at a medium-sized independent shop and they allow us to use the facility on our own vehicles after hours, so I have done 100% of the maintenance on the car and I wash and clean the car pretty often, so there is no way I would have missed it on a previous cleaning. Commenter: also get tested. OOP: good thought, thanks. Oh man, I am shaking right now. Commenter: being at the gym for 3 hours a day was already probable cause to suspect cheating. Working out just doesn't take that long unless the gym is 45 minutes away. OOP: she goes to a class, then after weight trains by herself and then does cardio on the treadmill or Stairmaster. I have been to the gym with her and I can see it can take 3 hours total. Commenter: this broke my heart to read. You sound like a really wonderful man and you don't deserve any of this. I was cheated on. No one deserves this type of pain. So everyone is saying lawyer up. Catch her in the act. Take her down. Yes, you should do the lawyer part, which I know is so painful. Realizing I needed to hire a lawyer was excruciating for me, but honestly, a personal therapist is equally as necessary and productive. I could not do what was right for me. I could not stand up for myself. I would not know how to grieve or mourn my fiancé. I could not have done anything without therapy. OOP: thanks for the kind words. All this is so unfamiliar to me. Lawyers, therapists, I do know where to start. Commenter: has she given you any indication that she might be cheating? Finding something like that is pretty hard to deny. OOP: no indication. We have a good relationship and still have great sex. She has always spent way too much time with her nose in her phone, so maybe I've been oblivious. Dash cams. Ironically, both our cars already do have front dash cams. I'll look at the footage. Commenter: is there an expiration date on the condom wrapper? How many years out of date is it? Reply: expiration date is November 2025. Commenter: breathe. You don't have to do anything right now. You can talk to wife about it, or you can take time to process it, and talk to her when you are feeling more stable. Don't rush in with big emotions. It's easier to be fooled, or to do something we regret when our emotions are high. Your future isn't being decided today. You're gonna have a lot to work through no matter the scenario. Reply: I definitely need some time to think about stuff. I am just so confused and my brain is all over the place right now. I'm not ready to confront her right now. Update post 1. Lots of folks asked for an update. Not a whole lot to say, but things are getting interesting. I am shaking as I type this. Thanks to everyone in the comments and the DMs for the empathy and well wishes. A lot of good tips and advice too. Man, I would hate to piss some of you off. Some of you are vindictive. First off, I found a wrapper, not an actual used condom, so the suggestion of DNA testing was not useful. And thanks to you /Uhidano27 for the information about getting detailed phone records from Visible today at work. During some break time I requested a download of the phone records, but it says the request could take up to 45 days. I can't wait that long. I also drove by her work on my lunch break. I don't know why or what I expected, but her car was there as it normally is. Lots of good advice to track her: get a VAR, look at her phone without her knowing, hire an investigator, a lawyer, etc. I can't deal with this. I am taking the advice a lot of you had, and I'm just going to confront her today when she gets home as some of you suggested. I plan to just put the condom wrapper on the table in plain sight and watch her body language. I am so scared and nervous I am almost pissing my pants. I am really starting to expect the worst for me. If she cheated, there is zero chance we will stay married. Zero. I don't care what excuses or reasons or whatever she has. I am 100% done. No therapy, no counseling, nothing. I can't believe I am typing this. It makes it seem real. I can't imagine her sucking and fucking some other guy, or guys. That's an image I could never get out of my head for the rest of my life. As far as assets, we don't have a lot. We have a pretty nice house that her dad helped us pay for. I'm happy to let her have it with my fair share and paying back her father otherwise is bullshit, like 2 cars, some furniture and some decent savings that we have both contributed to, so I'm willing to split 50/50. The thought of divorce is burning a pit in my gut. I'll post again after I confront her. Either way, I think this thing comes to a conclusion tonight. Mini update. Okay, instead of sitting here pissing my pants, I wanted to just type few more things to keep busy. I'm sitting here trying to find any other reason to doubt her. The wrapper, it was fairly pristine, not something stuck on a shoe or sitting in a parking lot. Dashcam, yes, I've checked the dashcam footage, nothing suspicious or out of the ordinary. Commutes to work, the gym and home, maybe a stop or two for typical errands. Grocery store, cleaners, zero suspicious activity, but she knows there is a dashcam too, so who knows, maybe she's just being really careful. The car, yes, we bought it used 2 years ago. It is an 2018 Infiniti Q60 Coupe. It had an extremely small back seat. I can't imagine sex back there, but who knows what motivated people might be capable of. I clean and vacuum it at least once a month, so there is zero chance it has been there the whole time. Ironically, we usually wash the cars together, but this time I happen to be doing it alone. Had she been there, this whole thing would probably be over now. Our current state of relationship, it's really strong. As far as I know, she comes home, we share a glass of wine while we make dinner together, talk about our day, cuddle on the couch if we watch a show. We really have what anyone from the outside would be jealous. No feelings of distance, no hiding of phone, and no drop off in sex, which has always been and still is great. Her gym time, with as much as she does, it is really reasonable for her to spend 2.5 hours at the gym. I've gone with her, I've seen her work out, it's pretty extensive and her body shows it. I am so proud of how great she looks and how she takes such good care of herself and encourages me and cares about our health. I've never been suspicious about it, maybe foolishly. Yes, she comes home and showers right away, but she's typically sweaty and feels gross. She doesn't avoid me when she walks in. She will typically come over and greet me with a kiss on the lips and then hit the shower. If she was just having sex with a side piece, I think she would be more discreet. We spend almost all of our time together. On the weekends, go for a jog, date nights, happy hour with friends, dinners with family, etc. She has a lot of girlfriends from work and they sometimes go out for a girls' night like once every 2 months, but again, nothing suspicious. I see the credit card charges, so I don't believe she is hiding anything, and her girlfriends are all awesome and I love hanging out with them and their husbands BFs. I'm torn and getting nervous about talking to her tonight, but I gotta get this over with. Some of comments. Commenter: so sorry you are going through this. Among other things, I would make sure you have a good support system and keep them in the loop. Reply: the crazy thing is that my best support system is her family. I am very close to her mom and dad and love them like my own parents. They have been so good to me from the beginning, and her younger sister, 29F, and her BF are my best friends. I hate to think I could lose all that too. I come from a borderline abusive situation and I'm not at all close to my family. We are cordial at best. Commenter: have an out prepared stay with a friend, rent a hotel room for the night just in case it gets ugly. Don't go in blind and unprepared. Reply: yeah, I'm not violent or aggressive or anything, so there is zero chance of anything getting physical, and I wouldn't kick her out. I still love her and want her to be safe. I would leave instead if it even comes to that. Commenter: YTF, you haven't snooped her phone yet is beyond me. Multiple threads on here, but not even one peek at her communications. What a waste. OP is gonna just let her set the stage and never even bother to know the truth. Reply: I found the wrapper day before yesterday and haven't had a chance to check her phone since. Not sure I want to. Commenter: downvoted. Who boi? What are you going to do if she's innocent? What's she going to think of you and your relationship? Is she going to stay with you? Reply: if she's innocent, the first can't imagine she would feel that my suspicion was not reasonable. I may be foolish, but I do think it would impact our relationship. Same commenter, even more downvoted. I'm going to say she's innocent and you're overreacting. You've worked yourself up and are spiraling. Trust your relationship. Reply: On one hand I am spiraling and on the other I am feeling super guilty for doubting her. I am so confused and just want this to be over either way. Update post 2. This should be my final post on this topic. I took a lot of your advice and decided to just confront her tonight. Sorry for the length, but it was a lot. My wife came home from the gym about 6:45. Like always I was sitting at the kitchen table alone. She came over, said hi, kissed me on the lips and went off to take a shower pretty much like usual. I'm NGL. When she came over to kiss me I smelled really hard for any evidence of scents: cologne, soap, deodorant, sweat. Anything. I got nothing. As she showered I sat by myself, a ball of anxiety and damn near chickened out. She got out of the shower and came into the kitchen, wet hair, sweats, t-shirt, looking beautiful as usual. She sat down like we always do and expected to chat about our day. She could see immediately something was wrong. She asked, "What's up?" I was shaking and so nervous like you cannot believe. I asked, "Have you lent your car to anyone recently?" "No." "Have you had any passengers in your car the last few weeks?" She thought for a second and said no. I asked, "Has anyone besides you or me been in your car the last few weeks?" She said, "No." What the hell is going on? I asked to see her phone. She looked at me weird, said, "Okay," and just slid the phone to me across the table, no hesitation, and said, "What the fuck is going on?" I didn't touch her phone. I took the condom wrapper out of my pocket and set it on the table. She looked at it but had no real visible reaction. I didn't say a word. After a few seconds she said, "What the hell is that?" I said, "It's a condom wrapper." She said, "It's obviously a condom wrapper. What the fuck is a condom wrapper doing on our kitchen table?" She was starting to get annoyed. She is either a really good actor or she sincerely had no idea what was happening. I told her I found it under her car seat while I was cleaning her car. She honestly looked dumbfounded. She said she had no idea how it got there. She really seemed sincere and was starting to get concerned. She asked if I thought it was hers. I said, "I'm not sure." "Is it?" She said, "You have got to be kidding me. You seriously think I'm fucking around on you? Are you crazy? What the hell is wrong with you?" She took her phone and waved it at me and said, "Here, please look at my phone. Call my sister, who she shares everything with. Call any of my friends. I'm not sure what you want me to say." We sat in silence, very uncomfortable for a minute or two. I didn't take my eyes off her, looking for any sign like a tear. I said, "What would you think if the roles were reversed?" She admitted she would probably be suspicious but would give me the benefit of the doubt. She literally went through every day the past couple of weeks, where she went, who she was with, what she was doing, trying to come up with any explanation. She finally remembered an after-work thing that they did for a friend of hers, a baby shower kind of thing at a restaurant. After work one of the girls at her office was invited but couldn't go, and so she asked my wife to please take her gifts to the party. My wife said sure. They walked down to my wife's car to put the gifts in and my wife's stuff was in the front passenger seat. As I said, the car she drives, Infiniti Q60, has a tiny back seat and access to that back seat is ridiculously difficult. As her friend was putting the gifts in, she spilled her purse all over the floor behind the passenger seat. That was the only possibility she could think of. As I sat there she insisted we call that friend immediately, and she did just that. She put her friend on speakerphone. She asked her if she remembered when she spilled her purse. She answered yes. She asked if she was sure she got everything picked up off the floor. She answered, "I think so." "Why?" My wife then seriously asks, "Do you and BF's name use condoms?" Her friend kind of chuckled and said, "Yes." My wife asks what brand, and she answered Trojan, same size too. My wife looked straight into my eyes and asked, "When you dumped your purse in my car, is there a chance there were condoms in it?" Her friend said, "Yes, it's not unusual for me to have condoms in my purse." "Why?" My wife told her friend about the wrapper. Her friend said she doesn't know why she would have an empty wrapper in her purse, but it is certainly possible. She hung up the phone and looked at me and asked if I would like to go through her phone. I said no, and she asked, "Mystery solved." I literally started crying. I was crying because I was so fucking relieved. I was crying because I am married to the most awesome woman in the world who loves me more than anything, and I was crying because I was racked with guilt that I thought she could be cheating. I felt miserable for how I must have made her feel. My incredible wife took it so well. She hit me with her dish towel and said, "Jesus Christ, I cannot believe you could think I would cheat on you." But she admitted again she may have felt the same in my shoes. She even laughed a little and said it was kind of cute that I was so jealous and nervous about asking her about it. We decided to have our glass of wine and go out for dinner. At dinner we talked about how excited we were to start trying for a baby. I am 100,000% sure she is telling the truth. I know her like nobody else. I know her body language. I know her voice and how it sounds when she is stressed or hiding something. There was none of that. I hope none of you have to go through this, but thanks for all the well wishes. I will probably let my wife read this thread at some point, but not while it's still so fresh. Plus she'll probably rib me for going to Reddit for advice. She's not necessarily a fan, haha. So all is good, really good. Have a great life everyone. Some of best comments. Commenter, phew. Glad it all worked out. You both know what you have now. OOP, she is the best. Our relationship has always been so strong. Now I am kicking myself for ever even thinking the worst. Commenter, stay off Reddit dude. I've seen too many posts where the toxicity of this place ruins relationships. Reply, haha, my wife feels the same way. I haven't shown her these posts yet, but I will when it's not so raw. I'm sure she'll roll her eyes and scold me for being on Reddit. Commenter, To be blunt, I don't think you should show your wife these posts. She's forgiven you, this time, but you were so far removed from giving her the benefit of the doubt you were considering stalking your wife instead of just talking to her. That is unacceptable. I think you need to do a bit of self-examination of why your initial reaction to something fairly mundane was so strong, and stay away from asking for advice on sites like this. Reply: you could be right, but honestly I don't think finding a condom wrapper in your partner's car is fairly mundane. Gig, maybe that's just me. Commenter: it's incredibly mundane. Could have been stuck to a shoe, or as is the case was dropped by a friend. So why did you immediately jump to checking her dashcam footage? Driving by her work. Mentally preparing for divorce and dividing assets. She's forgiven you right now because she doesn't know you did those things, and that you had so little faith in her you were considering paying for a PI that would be a relationship ender, personally. Reply: yeah, you make a lot of sense. My initial reaction wasn't the best and I'm sort of embarrassed by it all now. You just can't imagine how scrambled my brain was. Commenter: Inuit. As soon as you laid out your relationship details in the previous update, I had a suspicion it wasn't cheating. There are almost always some sort of changes: increase/decrease in affection, increase/decrease in outward confidence, schedule changes, etc. Either your wife was going to be one of the most impressive, for lack of a better word, cheaters in the world who made the biggest, dumbest oversight, or it was gonna be something else. Very glad it panned out this way. Your wife sounds cool as hell also. Reply: so true man. I now feel kind of foolish and guilty for immediately jumping to such an extreme conclusion with literally zero reason or signs, but the mind is a funny thing. She forgave me right away. We got back from dinner last night and she called her sister and started with, "You're never going to believe what this knucklehead thought. She's a keeper and I'm a lucky guy." Commenter: the biggest takeaway I got from your post is that you were seriously overthinking and spiraling, and created a fake scenario in your head. Any past traumas? Abandonment issues? Reply: wow, you are so right. I feel foolish and guilty for jumping to the most extreme conclusion immediately with zero previous signs or reasons. Trauma? I don't know, I could probably stand some therapy. I had a pretty weird childhood. We moved a lot and never had money or nice things. My parents stayed together but didn't have a very loving relationship. I didn't get a lot of attention when I was a kid cause my parents always seemed to be dealing with their own problems. Not a lot of time for kids. That probably fucked me up. I do have a great relationship with my parents today. I'd say we are cordial at best. My wife's parents are much more like my parents than my own. I absolutely adore them and they would do anything for me. Commenter: a number of elements feel like storytelling rather than recounting. During a time of suspected betrayal and emotional intensity, she hit me with a dish towel and said, "reads to me like," and then everyone in the restaurant applauded. I don't believe it. Likewise, your detached assessment of your wife's appearance, with little mention of other qualities, does not read like an aggrieved longtime spouse processing betrayal and evaluating possibility of divorce. I just don't believe it. Apparently there are a ton of weirdos on here who post fictional stories and act out fictional characters. I can't imagine why, but. Reply: okay, legit. Comments: I think the mentioning of her physical appearance gets to my insecurity about how much more attractive she is than me, and I guess I've maybe always thought she could do better. The dish towel comment: it happened. What can I say? I was just trying to emphasize how easily this thing rolled off back after it was resolved, but thanks for reading and commenting. Reflects: it's funny going back and rereading my posts with some distance. I can see that I am somewhat insecure. I have put her on such a pedestal, and feel like she is so much more of a catch than me. That's not healthy and probably something I need to work on with her help. My intense fear when I consider losing her is likely tied to some subconscious thought that I could never do better, yet she had never done anything to make me feel that way. The way she looks at me and treats me, it's like she thinks she could never do better. She is so humble, but I can't believe she doesn't know how awesome and beautiful she is. I need to have some confidence that I am worth her love. This situation has really opened my eyes. Bonus post: I am a guy that found a condom wrapper in his wife's car. You can read the posts and updates on my profile. The condom situation had a happy ending, but my initial reaction upon finding the wrapper was concerning to both my wife and I. We have a really solid relationship both physically and emotionally. In our 10+ years of our relationship, she has never given me any indication of anything other than 100% love, faithfulness, and devotion to me. Despite this, my reaction was to immediately jump to the worst case scenario, and it really caused me to panic and spiral. You can read the panic in my posts. My wife has been so understanding and supportive, and we have talked a lot. First off, she reiterated that if I ever have any concerns about anything, I need to talk to her. But otherwise we talked a lot about why this was my initial thought. We talked about the fact that I have always considered her just absolutely beautiful and way more attractive than me. We talked about how she constantly garners the attention of guys whenever we are out in a social situation, movies, bars, restaurants. I constantly see the eyes of men on her, and with good reason. She is a 12 out of 10. I mean that in all seriousness. Guys are surprised when they see her and realize she is with me. I think, no, I am insecure, anxious, defensive, and lack confidence about that specific aspect of our relationship. She says I am crazy. She has eyes only for me, showers me with love. Physical affection and attention when we are out makes it obvious she is not interested in flirting with anyone. She is unfazed and unimpressed with guys' attention or flirty comments. She says I am wrong about my looks and she thinks no man on earth is better looking than me. So here's the crux: would I benefit from therapy? Single therapy or couples? Any kind of therapist I should be looking for. I am really willing to give this a try. Sum of comments. Commenter: your post made me cry because I sincerely wish my husband had shared your introspection and willingness to change. He was kinda like you, thought I was out of his league even though I sincerely thought he was sexy and handsome and I only had eyes for him. Never even came close to cheating on him, but I was constantly accused. I definitely think therapy would benefit you if individual or couples would be better, but I wish you and your marriage the best. Reply: thanks so much for your thoughtful reply. She is my world and I just think subconsciously I feel that I somehow lucked out with her. Settling for me. I know she doesn't feel that way, and she has told me often she really is crazy for me. It's just troubling I guess knowing every time we go out that 90% of the men there would love to bang her. It's intimidating, if that makes sense. There's always this sense of dread that she can have any guy she wants and someday she's going to choose someone else. Replies to a long comment. Thanks for this. Yes, I think I am pretty self-aware and understand precisely what my insecurities are. I am just wanting some tools to help me navigate and get more confidence in myself. My wife is really helping now that she understands better. I do think she really knew I felt until this incident, which is on me. I never really discussed it with her before. One more thought from: I wonder if I have some PTSD from how I grew up. Fear of abandonment. I don't know. You could never know. Today, by knowing me how I grew up, I thought that part of my life was totally behind me. Who knows? Stories number 5. My 31M GF 30F said she had the best sex ever with another man in front of me. How do I proceed? Oof, this one was tough to hear. I am not sure whether I should continue to address this or just move on and push forward in the relationship. I have been with my partner for about 7 months, still relatively new. I am happy in the relationship and she is too. We have pretty good, open, and honest communication. So, I was at a party with my girlfriend this weekend. We were all relatively drunk, and her friends brought up her taking a guy back to their Airbnb and I guess having some pretty vocal sex. She was drunk and just went, it was the best sex ever, while, unfortunately, I was standing right there. We were drunk and cabbing back to her place and I think I got pretty rattled and asked her what was it. She did explain to me, in detail, what it was. I do appreciate the openness and we have had a good relationship with pretty open and honest communication thus far. Now look, I know in a relationship people have pasts, and sex is a journey. We have good sex, and she reassured me that she loves sex with me. But man, this sucked to hear. I'm honestly not super angry about it, but I am definitely ruminating on it. I could choose to never bring it up again. I could choose to work on improving our sex life and getting to an amazing spot and being thankful for her honesty, but I could also choose to end it, although that seems aggressive for a one-off comment. I feel kind of lost and am wondering if I should just move on from this or continue to bring it up. Update. Gonna keep this thread open and post an update in 30 days. Talking to my therapist in 18 days. Honestly, the approach I am planning to take is to focus on myself for the near future. I am not going to end things because of one drunken comment. If I see patterns or signs of continued disrespect, though, I will make a choice and leave. So far, I've seen honesty and trustworthiness in the relationship, even with things she felt uncomfortable sharing. I do love her. This absolutely hurt my ego, and she did not think before she spoke. But I think a lot of the woman's perspectives in here were helpful. She probably just blurted it out cause the girls were ribbing her, and some of the male perspectives were good too. Get over yourself and get better. That will be the approach I take vs just giving up. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. You could also choose not to chose right now. How long ago did this happen? Reply. This happened on Saturday. Truth be told, I didn't feel that bothered by it the following day or even not too long after. I spent the next couple days with her, but being alone is making me look back on it and feel more anxious about it. When did the Airbnb incident take place? Before or during the current relationship? Reply. It was a couple of months before we started dating. There might be some insecurities in OOP's relationship. Reply. Damn, lol. This hit home. I know I have my own relationship insecurities to work on, and the more open I let her be around me, and the more comfortable I am, the more our relationship has the opportunity to flourish. This may be one of those moments where taking the time to work on myself is the best course of action. Personal update. I did chat with her about it after I made the post. She felt pretty bad and apologized. We ended up having a really good and open chat afterwards about it, how it made me feel. She also asked what the best sex I had was and I told her lol, and she confirmed it did not feel great to hear. 3 months later I am still with her, have not seen a single other red flag pop up. Our sex life has gotten better. I really just decided to focus on myself and not on any insecurities for a bit, and wouldn't you know it, my relationship improved. After I posted this I was feeling a ton of anxiety and decided to just stop going on Reddit for a bit. Can't express how helpful this was for me. I regret posting this on Reddit because I honestly didn't care a whole lot about it, but reading the comments warped my mind on it a bit. No offense, but there are a lot of unhappy and angry people on Reddit, and they are not the best people to be taking life and relationship advice from. I have a great GF and we have good communication. She said something dumb at a party. It wasn't a great thing to say in front of a partner, and we all recognize that she apologized. I have since forgiven her, and it's a blip for me in a great relationship. Also, there seems to be some obsession with it being about the guy's dick. Not sure if you guys know this, but a huge dick actually doesn't equate to the best sex ever. I'm sure it can at times, but this, best sex ever, was more so a novel and exciting situation while on holiday, which is very similar to my best sex ever. I am glad I didn't break up with her. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I'm super glad to hear that you were able to be open and honest with her about how hearing that felt. Even if she didn't have any bad intentions behind it, it's important for couples to know how their behavior makes each other feel, so that they can make corrections and adjust themselves accordingly, and I'm glad that she saw it that way. Best of luck to you too. Reply. She saw it and was able to recognize where she went wrong and grow from it. I could have thrown it away, but these things aren't black and white, and I'm glad I didn't. She's a great partner and treats me right. Commenter 2. Have to admit I read it for the train wreck element, but also to understand why so many people have bad relationships and make such poor decisions. Way too black and white, a bit of an echo chamber, and it seems like the average respondent has never actually had a partner more than a month. Commenter 3. I still don't understand though, a bunch of 30-year-old commenting about their friend previous sex life in front of her now partner. Sounds like teenagers and not mature adults, and it was a bit embarrassing for you, I am sure, but I believe if she was apologetic, then this isn't a reason to break up. As long as it doesn't become a regular occurrence, I wish you good luck in your relationship. Commenter 4. That's a super mature way to handle a difficult situation. You opened a dialogue instead of throwing a fit, and it worked out. I hope the best for both of you. Final update. Final update. After reading all your comments, I decided to pull the plug. I dumped her. I let her know that she is destined for the streets because she drunkenly said something at a party. She was super confused and crying all day, like literally bawling when asked why. I just said, because you don't respect me. I let her know it was the comment she made 3 months ago. She was so confused and she just kept saying all the nice things she did. For me, I've never seen a girl more confused and upset before. Thank you Reddit, my life is so much better now, and now I will make sure to find a girl who never makes a mistake and worships me from day one automatically and is pure and has less than 5 bodies. Will make sure to ask all of that on the front end and confirm with them that I am the best sex they've ever had. You guys are so enlightened and helpful, I can't thank you enough. Stories number 6. Aita for telling my sister her baby isn't a real baby. I, 26F. Got engaged to my fiancé on January 1st. I was very excited to share with my family, of course, and everyone congratulated me and my fiancé. I sent a picture of my ring to my family group chat as well as my Instagram, and everyone has been commenting on the fact I got a very big diamond. My diamond is a lab-grown diamond that is just under 5 ct. I specifically asked for a lab diamond as I believe they're more ethical, as you never know if a mined diamond is a blood diamond. My sister, 31F, was very excited for me, but as soon as I showed her my ring her mood changed and she was telling me that it was too flashy and that it's not practical and that it's too trendy and not timeless. My ring is a pear-shaped solitaire ring with a marquee band and I love it. My sister then told me that there was no way that my fiancé could afford my ring. True, if it was a mined diamond it would be 10x the price, and my fiancé is a second-year resident, and that I should test to see if it's a real diamond. I replied that since it's a lab diamond it was a lot less expensive. She then proceeded to tell me how lab diamonds aren't real diamonds, and since they're made in a lab it doesn't hold the same sentimental value. My sister's ring is a small 1 ct mined diamond and it's beautiful. I never said anything bad about her ring and it suits her. I tried to laugh it off and I told her that I asked for a lab diamond and that I don't want a mined diamond. When I said that, she started yelling at me that it wasn't even a real diamond in the first place and that it was grown in a lab, not the ground. That's when said by her logic. My niece wasn't a real baby then because she was an IVF baby and grown in a lab too. My sister and her husband had a lot of issues conceiving as my sister had some complications with endometriosis. Their IVF journey was really tough and they had multiple rounds and attempts, and one miscarriage, but finally got lucky and had my very healthy niece last year. I know my sister had a hard time conceiving, that was kind of the point I was making. My niece started in a lab, but she has beautiful meaning behind her life too. When I made the comment that my niece wasn't a real baby because she was an IVF baby, my sister started crying over the phone. Her husband then called me and berated me and told me I was insensitive and couldn't understand the depths of her emotional turmoil and that I shouldn't have started a fight over a ring. He even said I was ableist. I have endometriosis too. My mom says it's not a big deal but I should let my sister cool off. I usually babysit my niece pretty often but my sister hasn't been answering my calls for a week. My fiancé says, although I probably shouldn't have said that. I was justified. I didn't mean it seriously. I know my niece is a real baby and I adore her and spoil her all the time. Am I the asshole? Stories number 7. Destination wedding for husband's granddaughter. He won't do anything to get his passport. Been married to my second husband for 27 years. He has 2 kids who I really like and get along with. One daughter has 4 daughters who are a bit spoiled. I made sure to give the granddaughters nice presents for their graduation gifts and have always been the nice step-grandma who is pretty much ignored by the grandkids. My husband does zero work on any gift giving or travel arranging. When we have attended any of their events, that's all left up to me. We attended the weddings of the first 2 granddaughters, both of which were about 3 hours away. I arranged the trip, bought and wrapped the gifts and bought cards. We attended the event and I was again the nice step-grandma who is pretty much ignored by the grandkids. About 4 months ago we received a save the date card, letting us know that the 3rd granddaughter will be getting married in another country. In mid-2025 I have a passport but husband does not. I told him he will need to get a passport to attend this. He's done nothing. A few weeks ago I asked if he really wanted to go to this, and he said yes. I reminded him that he would need a passport so I went online to see what he needed to get. That one item was the date of divorce from his prior wife. He said he wasn't going to get into that. I said okay and dropped the whole issue. I had been looking at airline flights and the tickets would have cost about $2,000 for both of us. The hotel would be another $1,000, all-inclusive place. The invite for the wedding is taped to the front of the fridge and I am not going to bring this up again. If he asks, I will let him know that if he actually gets off his butt and gets his passport I will make travel arrangements. Edit. I forgot to mention that the wedding is on a Wednesday, which means we would have to fly out Tuesday, and fly back Thursday. I cannot believe she chose Wednesday for her wedding day. Update. Hey, thanks everyone for all the interesting comments. As you can tell, there's more going on than just the wedding. I will be sure to post an update when he completely fails to do anything to go to the wedding, and therefore we don't go. Update. To all of you who commented before, thanks. This is the update and I know I'm setting myself up to get knocked about, but this is Reddit after all. I saw the divorce decree from his prior wife, so he is indeed divorced and he and I are legally married. Since that post, I have told him he needs to engage in the cleaning and taking care of things around the house. He is now responsible for 1 bathroom and I'm responsible for the other. He actually pointed out a cleaning method to me and I said, great, do whatever you like. He has been frustrated by the new order around here and continues to do as little as possible. I have tried to remain cheerful and positive. His daughter called to confirm we are coming. He said, of course, and later asked me, we are going, right? I said when you get your passport I will make the reservations. He looked dumbstruck. I told him the application has been sitting, right where I told him, and he denied ever hearing me say that he started working on the application. Then asked me if he had a birth certificate. I told him, I assume so, because you were born. He asked where it was and I told him I have no idea. Figure it out. He was getting frustrated. I went and fetched it from the files, and angrily told him here it is and you can take care of this from now on. Yes. I spoke angrily. Yes. I slammed it down on the table. He flipped out and threw a plastic bottle of salad dressing into the kitchen and it broke and splattered all over the cabinets. Like the mature adults we are, the rest of the day was spent in silence. I went into my office, and he was again glued to the damn political news on the TV, just like he has been for years. He eventually cleaned up the mess in the kitchen. I refused to cook for him, will not do any of his laundry. I had just changed the sheets on the bed and I bet they are there this time next year. I have taken up residence in the extra bedroom and my office, which are on one side of the house. I'm not sure what will come of this, but I wish the divorce from his prior wife had never been finalized. I would now be free financially. We are kind of stuck together but I will work toward getting unstuck. Some comments from OOP where she realized what everyone here did after reading the first post. In response to why she is with him. Some days I wonder he does have a terrific sense of humor and we have shared a lot of adventures over the years. In response to someone who shared a recipe and her own story of waking up to reality. Oh, thank you so much for this lovely recipe. I am going into town tomorrow and can visit a shop with particularly good produce. I will let you know how it turns out. Well, my prior post was pretty much the start of my wake-up call, when I wondered, why am I jumping through hoops doing all the work for his passport, when he's sitting over there cackling at the TV? I already have a passport. He's a grown man, and even though I'm better at paperwork he's still fully capable of doing this. As usual, weddings just fan the flames of the usual relationship issues. OOP confirms that her hubby surprisingly isn't a MAGA cultist, so just weaponized incompetence then. No, he's the opposite, but I can see how he would otherwise fit the profile. His daughter and the bride are aware his daughter is really nice and understands the situation. Budgeting when only one spouse works. Aggravating day-to-day. Husband and I are in our late 60s. He is fully retired and receives Social Security. I continue to work and bring in the lion's share of our income. One manage and pay all the bills. I juggle the checkbook if he wants to buy something. He usually just asks, can we afford X? Well yes, technically we can afford lots of things if we don't worry about the bills coming due in the next few weeks and if we forget about all the other things that are on our mutual wish list. Everything that we spend money on today reduces money available tomorrow. So today we were vehicle shopping. I am generally the negotiator, because I'm good at it. The dealer didn't want to pay what our trade-in is worth, and didn't want to come down on the vehicle we wanted to buy. I told my husband if they don't budge again, it's time for us to go. Well, evidently they think we are too cheap. So they said they didn't agree with our numbers, so we said thanks, nice knowing you, and left. The drive home was in silence for 3 hours. He has not spoken, obviously upset that we didn't just pay what they wanted and make the deal. Overpaying for a vehicle is not smart. And I have done my research about what a vehicle is worth and the trade-in values for ours. If the dealer thinks they can make more money from another buyer, that's fine. It just does not work for us. I'm the one that has to squeeze the budget and rejuggle everything to make it all fit, and I'm the one still working, bringing in the dollar. Arg. Rant over. Stories number 8. Aita for being upset that I found out my wife was pregnant via social media. I'm 29, and she is 27. We've been together for 4 years, married for 2, both from the same hometown but currently living in a different city. She's at our hometown for a family event, and I stayed back due to work. We've been trying to get pregnant for 3 months, and now it's happened. The problem is the way I found out about it. My friend congratulated me by posting a screenshot in our group chat, a screenshot of an Instagram story posted by one of my wife's friends. The post was my wife crying and hugging some of her friends, with the caption, "You are going to be the best mom." I called her right away, and she answered pretty quickly, saying, "I have news, babe." All I said was, "I know, you're pregnant." She replied, "Wow, babe, how did you know?" I just said, "Saw it on Insta, didn't think to call me first, huh?" She said, "What? I didn't post anything." I responded, "Yeah, but your friends did. That's one way to find out I'm going to be a dad, thanks," and I hung up. I was furious. She kept calling me, and I didn't answer until my sister called shortly after. My sister asked me what was going on because she'd just arrived at my in-laws' house, and everyone was freaking out, fighting, and my wife was locked up in her room. I told her what happened, and she said, "There's no way she would do that." I replied, "Well, she did." My sister said she was going to find out what was going on. A little later, my sister called me back and explained everything. At that point, I'd calmed down, thinking it was just a crappy friend who decided to post without permission, but my sister filled me in on the details. My wife was late on her period and, while hanging out with a friend, they thought, "What if you're already pregnant?" So they bought a bunch of pregnancy tests, all of which came out positive. They freaked out, told her parents, and then texted some friends in town to come over. From the time she found out to the time her friend posted on Instagram, only 2 hours had passed. My wife told at least 10 people before telling me. For the record, my sister told me that the argument going on when she arrived was because the other friends were upset with the one who posted on Instagram. Apparently, they all thought it was a shitty thing to do and were mad at her, but they also couldn't understand why my wife hadn't told me sooner. I finally called my wife, and she was crying. She apologized and said she'd been planning to surprise me, which was why she hadn't told me yet. I was skeptical and pointed out that if she'd really wanted to surprise me, she wouldn't have been ready to tell me right when I called. She went silent, and I told her I needed some time to think. She yelled, saying I couldn't just walk away and that we needed to talk about it. I replied, "Why do we need to talk? So you can lie again," and I hung up. A ton of people have been messaging me, but I'm honestly exhausted. I don't know why, but this has drained me. I've cried randomly, which is unusual for me. I'm not a crier. This isn't supposed to be a huge deal, but it feels like I've been hit by a truck. My sister sent me a message that really stuck. "Hey, I know this sucks. And it was crappy of her, but don't let this ruin it for you. You're going to be a dad. You're going to be an amazing dad. This is great. The only thing keeping me going right now is knowing that I'm going to be a dad. I've dreamed of this, and all I hope is that this baby is healthy." I'll probably swallow my pride and pretend I'm fine just to avoid making my wife too emotional during the pregnancy, but I'll do that tomorrow. Tonight, I'll just sulk. Edit. I posted this into the Reddit void, thinking nothing of it, and woke up to thousands of comments and dozens of DMs. Holy shit, thank you so much for caring. Just to clarify a couple things. Do I think the baby might not be mine? Classic Reddit. LOL. No chance. She cheated. She works from home and we have home security cameras inside the house, so that's not happening in our house. She does not do girls' nights. Her best friend in the city we live in is a female coworker of mine, and we hang out, the 3 of us, often. They text each other a lot but almost never hang out one-on-one. If they do, it's at our house with me in the next room. Also, my wife is the clingiest person alive. Like, when I'm at work, she texts me every 30 minutes, and when I'm at home, she is always at least in the same room I'm in if she isn't cuddling up to me when we are out. She is always holding my arm, my hand, literally does not leave my side. I honestly actually love it. Most of the time I feel loved, but it is too much sometimes, and we had a fight about it weeks ago. I even questioned if this fight was the reason she didn't tell me right away, but it's probably not it. On her friends, they are all very nice people. I've known them for a long time now. My sister is part of the friend group, and some of them have been friends since they were like 12. My wife is the only one that lives in a different city, so they always hang out a lot when she is in town. I cannot emphasize enough how out of character this whole situation is for her. She has many flaws, like every other person, but being inconsiderate is not one of them. That's why I woke up in the middle of the night with a feeling like I'm actually completely wrong on this, because she would not do this on purpose. There is no way. So I sent her a text just saying that everything is fine and that I will drive the 4 hours down there to talk. She was actually awake and asked if she could call. She did and said she wanted to come home. I said that I was going over there to pick her up. She asked, "Are we okay?" I just said yes, and she started to cry. I told her that I'm very happy, and I'm dying to see her, but we will need to talk about it. She calmed down a bit after that. That's when I opened the post again and saw all the comments. I asked for a day off, and my boss was fine with it, so I'm actually going to my hometown right now. I will update when it's all settled. Comments. Commenter 1. That's some shitty behavior indeed from that one friend. Who the hell steals a pregnancy announcement? LMAO. Commenter 2. Damn, that actually sucks. Only way I would be on your wife's side here is if she was planning on doing some kind of surprise to get your reaction, but you catching her on a lie pretty much ends that possibility. All I can say is that I hope you baby is healthy and good luck with fatherhood. Commenter 3. NTA. And my thing is, she was so excited she told everything, but you called her parents and random ass friends, but not you, her husband, partner and life and father. I would be hurt, and also it would make me question things. You should have been one of her first thoughts, not last. Commenter 4. Your wife and her friends are shitty. Also, why should you have to hide your hurt feelings when she's the one that fucked up and hurt you? Just because she's pregnant doesn't mean you have to push down your feelings. She took away an awesome moment that the two of you could have had and instead had that moment with almost a dozen other people. You are allowed to be upset with her. What's next? Is she going to insist someone else is in the delivery room instead of you? She's pretty selfish, and I hope she grows up before the baby comes. Update. Hello again. Things have settled down now, and I feel like I have all the information, so I'm here to give y'all an update. When I got to my in-laws, my wife was sitting on the sidewalk waiting for me. She jumped on me and kept apologizing, just hugging me and saying how sorry she was. We went to her room, and I told her I was really tired and wanted a nap. Before our talk we slept holding each other. When we woke up, our talk felt like an endless circle, me asking what happened and her saying that she was stupid and that it was her fault. She kept saying it didn't matter what happened because she screwed up a big moment in our lives. I kept asking, but she just repeated that she messed up and that nothing else mattered. Eventually, she said she didn't want to give me excuses and that the right thing for her to do was take responsibility and apologize. I eventually gave in, told her she was forgiven, and said everything was fine. Still, I went to talk to her friend, the one who was with her all day and bought the pregnancy test with her. Her story was that, right after my wife tested positive, they spent about an hour freaking out and talking about ways to tell me or surprise me. Eventually, my mother-in-law got home, and they told her together. They decided to invite their girlfriends over to discuss ways to tell me. The friend went over all their ideas, and I 100% believe her. She also said it was discussed with the group that I didn't know yet and that they should all keep quiet for now because we hadn't decided when to announce it. She says the one girl who posted it on Instagram absolutely did it on purpose. She had been told not to say anything to anyone, and, at that point, they were even discussing ways to tell me with her. The picture she posted was taken when another friend had just arrived and heard the news. For some reason, she decided to post about it right then and there. Apparently, when they confronted her, she initially claimed she didn't know she wasn't allowed to post it. She stuck to that lie for a while, but eventually, she just told everyone she didn't give a shit and left. She blocked everyone in the group, and we haven't heard from her since. No one knows why she did it. They don't know if she's jealous of my wife or something else at this point. We don't care. She's blocked on our end too, and we want no contact with her. My sister later confirmed the friend's story. When she first called me with details, she was under the impression my wife had just told everyone and forgot to tell me, but after talking to other friends and my mother-in-law, she told me basically the same story. I was also told by the friend I spoke to, my mother-in-law, and another friend that when I called my wife, she basically said, "Screw it, I'm telling him right now," and was super excited to do it. Me and my wife talked again during our trip back home, now with me having most of the details, and she told her side, basically identical to what my sister and the friend told me. She was again very apologetic and kept saying that I'm her number one priority, and that this was one of the dumbest things she has ever done. We have a couples counseling appointment next week at her insistence. I honestly don't think it's necessary, but she believes I need a space to fully express my feelings. She's worried I forgave her too fast and that I'm bottling everything up. Honestly, her concern about my feelings is already enough for me to forgive her and chalk this up as a one-time thing. We also had our first appointment with an obstetrician, first because it's obviously the right thing to do, but also because many people warned me about the risks of miscarriages in early pregnancy. My wife's last period was about 6 weeks ago, and the doctor said it was a bit early for an appointment still. They ran a bunch of tests and confirmed my wife is indeed pregnant. So far, everything looks fine. Thank you all so much for caring about a random stranger. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, seems like things worked out. That's great. Honestly, I think you are completely right with that one friend. just block her from your lives and forget about it. No reason she will give you will bring you any satisfaction or joy, just forget about her. Reply, yeah, honestly, never really liked her, never said anything because she was friends with my sister for a long time and it didn't matter to me, but now I know my gut feeling was correct. Has the friend group blocked this friend after what happened? Reply, the entire friend group has blocked her back. There are stories coming out of her shit talking everyone behind their backs and other stuff like this. They are all done with her. Commenter 2, in your original post your sister told you that the friends didn't understand how your wife hadn't already told you, so that makes no sense if they were discussing surprising you. It also doesn't explain why your wife had locked herself away. If one friend had done that, then that friend would be thrown out and everyone else would be comforting your wife. This seems more like they got their stories straight and your wife is a horrible liar and that's why she didn't want to tell you and got someone else to do it. Your sister wanted you to forgive your wife. So maybe her story is different now for that reason. This doesn't make sense to me, but I'm just a stranger online. OOP, I guess I didn't explain it correctly. Their reaction was more like, I don't understand why she didn't just tell you, because the news itself is enough. There wasn't a need to make a big plan. Most of them were just like, I think you should just video call him. Other plans involved finding a way to get me to come over to town and throw a party or something like that, but most of them thought she should just tell me and apparently that was the reason that when I called she was ready to do so. To me it makes perfect sense, and I trust my wife. Update 2. Short recap. I was here 2 months ago to ask if I was an idiot for being upset that I found out about my wife's pregnancy via social media. A friend of hers posted it without permission, before she had the chance to tell me. At the time it was apparent she knew she did something fucked up and did it on purpose. But she did not give any explanation for it and blocked everyone we know. Now I'm back to share the reason, as we found out why my wife's friend, we'll call her Carol, did what she did. She was having an affair with my FIL, and she posted it as some weird power play. Apparently, they have been seeing each other for 3 years now, but according to my FIL, during the first 2 years, they were together only 4 times in total. This past year, apparently, they developed a relationship, and my FIL was promising to leave my MIL for her. First, from my perspective, I've lost all the respect I had for my Phil. I used to look up to the guy, but this is nuts. Look, my in-laws' marriage was not great. They separated a couple of times in the past, and before the pandemic, they were discussing divorce. Apparently, the pandemic helped them rekindle the relationship, but to me, it still felt like they should just divorce. My MIL is a very nice woman, I like her a lot, just like I used to like my FIL. They both look very good for their age, 50s, they're rich, they go on dates, take trips. But there was resentment there. You could feel it in their voices when they talked to or about each other. So while it would have been terrible for them to cheat, it wouldn't be surprising if either of them had. It would be an asshole move, but I wouldn't judge too much. But then you go and cheat with a woman half your age, who is friends with your daughter, and who you've known since she was 13 and you were in your 40s. Just fucking gross. But most importantly, my wife is pretty sad. She's disgusted, as she should be, and has been saying she doesn't know if she'll ever forgive her dad. Apparently, it was a common joke in her friend group that she had the hot dad. She hated it, and Carol was the one who made that joke the most. So that's another layer of complexity to unpack. My MIL has moved in with us temporarily, just to get away from the town where everyone now knows what happened. She doesn't even seem sad though, she looks mostly mad and annoyed. The pregnancy looks like it will be a good distraction for them, and my MIL will be a big help with that. The way it came out is that Carol apparently got drunk after Christmas and sent pics of her and my FIL together to an ex who was hitting her up. The ex then sent them to his friends, and the gossip spread around. She has reached out with an apology, and in it, she admitted she posted about my wife's pregnancy out of jealousy toward my MIL. It was honestly super weird and didn't make any sense. My wife didn't respond, just blocked her again. My FIL has tried to reach out to us a lot, saying this is an issue between him and MIL, and that we shouldn't get involved or judge him for it. Yeah, right in the beginning, he was even saying he loved Carol and was doubling down. A week later, he was promising my wife that he'd never even look at Carol again if she'd just talk to him. I'll follow my wife's lead on this. Whatever she decides, I'll support her 100%. As for our relationship, it's back to what it was. She was a bit distant after the pregnancy reveal fiasco, but once I told her I missed her clinging to me, she's been all over me again, and it's amazing. Ever since this thing with her dad came out, she's been sad, but I made a joke that she's been playing up her sadness a bit to get more cuddles. And she laughed and confirmed, LOL. So I think everything is going to be fine. The pregnancy is going well according to our doctor. Apart from this mess, things are okay. TLDR, FIL was having an affair with the friend that posted the pregnancy. It's a big mess, but other than that things are okay. Top comments. Commenter 1, this is not a twist I was looking for. Take care of your wife and good luck to both of you. Commenter 2, Carol sounds like a frenemy rather than a friend. I wonder what else she is plotting to upset your wife. Is it due to being jealous of your wife's life or is she just plain psycho? Commenter 3, that's a huge mess to deal with, and you're definitely not the asshole for being upset about the way you found out about the pregnancy. Carol's actions were manipulative, and your FIL's affair is just gross, especially given the long history. It makes sense why your wife would be feeling sad and distant. But it's great to see you're supporting her. It sounds like things are back on track with you too, and I'm glad the pregnancy is going well. Stay focused on each other and let your FIL and Carol handle their mess. Stories number 9. Aita for telling my girlfriend she was the perpetrator, not the victim, in her trauma. My 25M girlfriend, 24F, and I have been dating for about a year. I'll call her Casey here. We have lived together for 2 months. A few hours ago, Casey approached me saying that she wanted to talk about something serious. At first, I didn't know what to expect, but she wanted to share something traumatic that had happened to her before we met, and she asked if I would be willing to listen. I of course said yes, I would, if she'd be willing to share. Casey hesitated for a second, like she wasn't sure about telling me, but then gave me the full story. What happened was when she was a university student, she had a crush on a pizza guy. He worked at a small shop near her apartment, and he would often deliver to her. She wanted to ask him out, but she wasn't sure how, so she consulted her friends. Her friend group talked over it, and then one brought up the suggestion of answering the door in lingerie. The others jumped onto the idea quickly, and while Casey had doubts, they quickly convinced her to try it. They apparently even went shopping for the lingerie together. Casey put on makeup, did her hair, and ordered a pizza. When the guy came, she did exactly as her friend suggested. She opened the door in skimpy lingerie. The pizza guy initially didn't address it, but Casey, desperate, pushed the topic. She asked him, "What do you think about my outfit?" He responded, "Dude, please don't do that," and then left. At this point in the story, Casey was near tears, and she told me how embarrassed and sick she felt. I almost expected more from the story, but she was finished. I then said, you do realize that you weren't the victim, but the perpetrator, right?" She literally recoiled at this comment. She elaborated by blaming everybody else, her friends for tricking her, society in general, and even the pizza guy that she sexually harassed. To this I responded that she's like those guys who touch themselves in hotels, intentionally getting the maids to walk in on them. She insisted it was completely different, and a full-blown argument ensued. She finished the argument with, "I came to you to feel better and now I feel worse," and stormed away. I don't even know. I feel so disgusted with her right now. Was I the asshole for my comments when she felt vulnerable? Stories number 10. My F19 biological mom is 35. My dad is M45. Words cannot express how I'm feeling. If you do the math, you'll see that my bio mom was 16 and my father was 26 when I was born. I never knew this, so I'm really disappointed at the moment. I never really knew my mom. She and my dad split when I was 3 and the memories I have of her are very distant. My dad remarried when I was 6 to my stepmom, F42, and together they had 3 more kids in my household. It was no step or half. We were simply just family. Did I ever wonder about my bio mom? Yes and no. I was raised in a tight-knit home, so I never felt like I was really missing something because my stepmom also raised me, but I sometimes wondered about the woman who I'm supposedly a carbon copy of. My dad rarely talked about my mom. From what I knew, they got married when they found out she was pregnant, and she left. I reached out first and we met up for the first time last week. I was so nervous. I felt like I made a mistake, but she explained to me her story. My mom was a troubled teen and she left home. She and dad met when my mom was 15. Shortly after she ran away from home, he offered her a place to stay, and it wasn't long before they started a relationship. She said that she was miserable at the time. She didn't want a baby, she didn't want to be married, and she realized she made a mistake. She said the marriage was so bad, and it was really unhealthy. So one day, at the same exact age I am right now, she left. She moved back home and restarted her life. I'm so angry about so many things. I was groomed when I was 14 by an adult, and luckily my dad caught the situation fairly early before any serious damage could happen. The way my dad handled it was amazing, yet it turns out he is the same exact person I escaped. And also, I'm regretting meeting my mom. I keep dodging text messages, which isn't fair as I'm the one who reached out to her, but I'm regretting it. Why did I find it necessary to meet a person that didn't go looking for me? It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I don't know how to process this wave of emotions. How do I? The person that I usually go to for advice on things is my dad, but what can I do now that I can't even go to him? I've been doing well, you know. I've been in therapy since my early teens, but as of 2 years ago I've been doing so well now. It feels like I'm in a rut. It feels like I'm mad at everyone and all the angry emotions are just piling on. How do I process everything? Stories number 11. My best friend wants me to break up with my boyfriend and I don't know why. My boyfriend, we'll call him Blake, 25M, and I, 25F, have been together for 3 years. Before we dated, we used to be co-workers at a retail store when we were both 17. The first thing I noticed about Blake when we met was that he never smiled or showed any emotion. He always had a serious, stoned look on his face. He hardly, if ever, showed any emotional sentiments. I don't know how to describe it accurately, but just imagine Eminem or Shadow from Sonic and how they both always have a serious look on their faces. That's how Blake is. Even when customers or our coworkers would try to joke with him, he never cracked a smile or laughed. which would make it awkward for them however. Blake has always been respectful to those around him and never once raised his voice throughout his whole career. Our co-workers always thought Blake was weird and warned me to avoid him. However, despite all that, Blake and I ended up getting along great and became good friends. I never really minded that he never showed any emotions and still thought he was a good person. He even put up with my loud, extroverted self, LOL over the years. Blake and I became close, and I would occasionally see him smile or laugh, which I would lightly tease him about when it did happen on my 22nd birthday, which is on Valentine's. Blake had asked me to come over to his house and said it was serious, and when I got there it was full of decorations and flowers. And Blake was dressed nicely. He gave a long speech about how much our friendship meant to him and that he was grateful he had met me and asked if I wanted to be his girlfriend. I swear it felt like I was in a 70s rom-com movie. It was the first time I had seen Blake so vulnerable. He still had his cute, serious stone face on him, but I could tell he was extremely nervous. I, of course, said yes, and we had been a happy couple since then. Now on to the issue. My best friend, let's call her Sarah, 26F, and I have been friends since we were in 5th grade. Sarah and I were each other's partners in crime. She and I were really close before I met Blake. She had never met Blake before, as at the time he and I were just barely talking, and by the time we graduated high school, she had moved away to stay with her dad in another city, so she never got the chance to meet him. I, of course, talked about him and showed pictures of him and me together when we became closer and started dating. However, she once stated how she found it weird that he never was really smiling or seemed happy when he was with me and that I shouldn't be dating someone who doesn't want to be happy around me. I brushed it off and just assured him that's how he is and that he is actually a sweet guy. Looking back, I probably shouldn't have looked past what she said. But at that time I thought she was just being a protective friend. She had recently come back to our city and wanted the three of us to meet together. We decided to meet at a restaurant her and I used to hang out at. When we got there, Sarah and I ran at each other and squealed like little girls while Blake just stood and watched us. When Sarah looked at Blake, I noticed her expression immediately changed, and she awkwardly smiled and shook his hand and only said hi to him. Blake just nonchalantly said it was good to meet her. She then went back to talking to me, completely ignoring my Blake. When we got our menus, Blake couldn't find a meal he would enjoy and just said he would be fine with a small appetizer. Sarah unexpectedly said, "Why? Is nothing here good enough for you? Why would you agree to come here if you weren't going to get anything then?" She tried to say it like it was a joke, but any person can tell it was obviously not. I then defended Blake, claiming he could have whatever he liked and it wasn't a big deal. Sarah then dropped it at that. Throughout our dinner Sarah was ignoring Blake and was only trying to talk to me. Blake just stayed silent and watched us, not really caring about it, as he normally is not a big talker when meeting people. When she did include him, she would seemingly only ask him questions that would only need a one-word answer, and when he did answer, she would just give him side eyes or just say, "Okay then." I could already tell Sarah did not like Blake, but I couldn't understand why she wasn't directly being rude to him. But I could tell when she was making snide remarks about how he was emotionless and whatnot. At one point she excused herself to the bathroom, and when she left, I asked Blake if he was okay, and he assured me he was okay and just wanted me to catch up with my friend. I apologized for how she was acting, and he claimed he didn't care about it and was just happy I was with my friend. I was relieved he wasn't hurt by what was happening but still felt bad for him. After dinner the three of us went for a walk to see the buildings and stores, and Sarah seemed to be more cheerful. We then came across a person walking a small puppy. I love dogs so fucking much, and Sarah and I cooed and were giggling at how cute the puppy was. Blake was just standing, watching us fawn over the puppy. Once the dog owner left, Sarah turned to Blake, and she immediately became angry and asked, "How the fuck could you not even smile for a puppy? Are you seriously that soulless?" I was immediately shocked about her sudden change of tone and was about to say something, but Blake just shrugged and walked away. Continuing our walk I asked her what the hell her problem was, and she immediately apologized and said she didn't mean to yell. Our walk then became awkward. I wanted to just go home, but I also felt bad for Sarah, as she still had something else planned for after our walk that she had paid for the three of us to do, so I thought to just suck it up until it was over. I then had to use the bathroom, and we found a nearby store. I went in, and Blake and Sarah waited for me outside. When I came back, I found Sarah hysterically yelling at Blake. I immediately ran over to them and asked what the hell was going on. Sarah was in hysterics, but she kept yelling, "It's not going to happen. I will never let this happen." I asked her what she was talking about, but all she said was Blake was a psychopath and demanded I break up with him. I looked at Blake, who was just as shocked as I was. I kept trying to ask the both of them what had happened, but neither would answer me, which scared me. People started staring, and I desperately tried to calm Sarah down to de-escalate what was happening. Eventually I told Blake to walk back to the car so we could go home, and I would call an Uber for Sarah when we were alone. I was trying to get Sarah to tell me what had happened, but she just stayed silent. Blake came back to pick me up, and Sarah was just deathly staring at him, and he kept his head low. I didn't know what was happening and just started assuming they had an argument. Thankfully Sarah's Uber came and took her back to her hotel. Our car ride home was awkwardly silent, but as soon as we got home, I demanded to know what happened between him and Sarah. Blake just stayed silent, and at that point I was irritated with the both of them not answering my question. Blake said he couldn't say what happened, but that he was so sorry for what happened. That made me even more confused. And I asked him to please just say what had happened. He only said he swore he didn't do anything bad, but that he simply just couldn't say what happened. I then told him I was going to sleep in the guest bedroom as I just couldn't handle everything that was happening, especially since I still had no answer as to what had happened between the two of them. He said he understood and told me he loved me and went to our room. This all happened not even a few hours ago. I am currently lying in the guest room, confused and scared as ever. I know Sarah and Blake didn't really get along, but I don't know what caused such a huge fight that neither can tell me about. An hour ago I got a text from Sarah. I will copy and paste it here. Sarah, I'm really sorry about what happened tonight, but please listen to me. You need to break up with Blake. He is a literal psychopath who is only using you. He doesn't deserve you. I'm telling you this because I love you and want to protect you. Please break up with him. I haven't responded to her text as I know if I try asking again what happened between them she won't give me an answer. Reddit. I don't know what to do. I don't know if Sarah had said something to Blake or if Blake had something to Sarah that caused all this, but I'm scared that neither of them will tell me. Does Sarah simply just does not like Blake because he doesn't like to show his emotions? Any advice on how I can get the truth or at least some answers would be helpful. TLDR, my best friend and boyfriend got into a fight and now my best friend wants me to break up with him but won't say what happened. Edit. I would like to thank you all for your input and advice. I currently am unable to sleep and would like to clarify some things. Blake is not a sociopath. The reason I added the story of when he asked me to his boyfriend was to give a slight example on how he can be vulnerable and romantic. I did not want to add this as I felt it wasn't my place to say, but for backstory, Blake and his father did not have a good relationship. All I will say is his father raised him to believe men should show no emotion, and it's the reason why Blake is not an emotional person. There are of course times where he would laugh and smile and even cry. He just wouldn't do it as much as an average person would. Despite Blake being an emotionless person, he still has been very nice and respectful and loving towards me and has never been abusive or even raised his voice at me. Also, I do not believe Sarah and Blake have ever interacted before. They have met last night. Blake has to work today, so I will not see him until tonight. I will be speaking to him first before Sarah, and I will update as soon as I can. Also, I apologize if the story is too long or doesn't sound coherent. English is not my best of language and this is my first time using Reddit. Take care. Edit 2. Sorry for the repost. Unfortunately my original post was taken down. Just want to let everyone know I'm okay and still waiting for Blake to come home from work. Sarah has been blowing up my phone since her first text, but I decided not to read her texts in the moment. I want to hear Blake's side of the story first, and the way she's going about it seems uneasy to me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. She obviously knows him and both hiding things from you. It's unacceptable. Was he her ex or love interest? Maybe she hid it from you back then. Reply. I don't want to say this as I'm now not 100% sure on it, but as far as I'm concerned they have never interacted or met before until last night. She never showed any signs other than her being weirded out by him, but that's all I can think of. I responds to multiple comments about the possibility of Sarah not being interested in getting to know Blake and being judgment of him right there. OOP. Thank you for your reply. The way Sarah has acted with him during our hangout was very unlike her. She never acted this way when meeting our other friends' boyfriends and girlfriends, although it could be because they were more loud and outspoken than Blake was. I'm just hoping I can figure this out. Update. Hey guys, I'm back with a new update. Before I begin, I just want to thank those who took the time to read and give advice on my post. Now with the update, the night I made the post, I had some time to sit and think about everything that happened. I now know I could have handled the situation better, and I shouldn't have let Sarah continue her horrible behavior towards Blake. The fact that both of them were not telling me what was going on irritated me, and I let my anxiety get the better of me. I wanted to hear Blake out first, so I decided not to read Sarah's messages. I had turned off my phone and spent the day on my computer watching Reddit stories and learning how to use it better and going for a run to get my mind off everything. Once Blake came home, I asked if we could talk, to which he agreed. Taking the advice of a kind Redditor, I sat him down and started by apologizing for walking away from him the night before and for not defending him more during the hangout. I assured him I love and trust him deeply and that I will believe what he says to me. Eventually Blake told me what happened. Some of you guessed it right. Blake was planning on proposing to me. The way he described it was that when I left, he confided in Sarah that he was planning to propose to me and asked if she could help choose a ring, since she was supposed to hang out with us again another day. Blake then said Sarah asked if he was being serious, and when he said he was being serious, she then started screaming and lashing out at him. She screamed at him that this engagement will never happen, you don't deserve her, and that's when I came outside to say I was beyond shocked. Would be understandable. I then hugged him and once again apologized and asked if that was the reason he didn't want to tell me. Blake said yes, and it's because he didn't want to ruin the surprise. He then apologized for not just telling me, saying it wasn't worth keeping it as a surprise if it was causing us problems. I told him it wasn't causing us any problems and that I love him even more now. We both then hugged it out and made up. Blake then asked what Sarah had said about the situation. I admitted to him that I didn't read anything she had sent and just turned off my phone as I was scared of what she had said. After a while I finally turned on my phone, and I honestly wished I didn't when Sarah said she wasn't going to let this engagement happen. She really did mean it. I don't know she could do this to me, but now she's got our friends, my sister, and my aunt involved, and even involved my estranged dad, which was a real low blow. For context, my dad and I are no longer on speaking terms due to an incident with my former stepmom. They're no longer together. After finally reading my family and friends' messages, it sums up that Sarah had told them I'm with psychopath and that I'm refusing to leave him even when she tried to help. So now, the people who once knew the sweet, loving Blake that I know think he is now a crazy person and are begging me to leave him. I was, and still am, beyond furious. I had spent the whole night trying to clear the air with everyone, except my dad. Unfortunately, my aunt and some of my friends are still agreeing with Sarah, which is breaking my heart. There were so many texts from Sarah, but it ranged from her begging me to answer her to her being mad that I was taking Blake's side and not hers to her apologizing for involving my dad but saying it was for my own good. I had only sent her one text, and it goes as follows, copy and pasted. I don't understand how you expect me to take your side when you never told me why you said what you said. Blake had already told me what happened, and I can't even imagine what your side is. I can't believe you fucking lied to our friends and my family and for you to involve my dad. How the fuck do you even have his number? Above all, you disrespected my relationship and my boyfriend. Fuck you. I have since blocked her. She never told me why she wouldn't tell me what happened, so I still don't know what her motive was on that part other than to try to break us up. Not a great update, but Blake and I are doing okay. He has been very understanding and patient throughout all this, and I couldn't be more grateful for him. I know this might not be the end of this nightmare, so I may update again soon. I just don't know how to go about this. How can I convince my friends and my aunt that Blake is a good person? Should I somehow get Sarah to admit she was lying? Once again, thank you all for your advice. To the one Redditor who said my story was fake and that I shouldn't be with someone like Blake, I just want you to understand that these types of cartoonish situations can unfortunately happen to us, and also Blake is one of the best things that has ever been brought into my crazy life, and I couldn't imagine my life without him. So screw you anyways. I may see you all again soon. Take care. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Glad you blocked Sarah out of your life, and I'm glad you and Blake are doing better. I just have a few questions and suggestions if you don't mind sharing. Is your mom still in the picture? Or have you also cut contact with her? Did your dad know about Blake before you cut contact with him? Have you ever had a previous relationship before Blake? If so, has Sarah ever acted this way before? Do you know Sarah's sexuality? I said this in your original post, but maybe she's freaked out about the proposal because she might like you. Has she ever shown any signs that she perhaps might have feelings for you? Maybe try sitting your family and friends down to explain the situation better. If you were able to convince your sister and some of your friends that Blake is a good boyfriend, maybe try asking them to help you to convince your aunt and your other friends. Unless you don't care anymore, if you want to find out why Sarah wants to break you guys up, maybe you can meet with her in a public place and make her explain everything and why she's been acting like this. Reply. Unfortunately, my mother passed away when I was young, but remembering her, I know she would have gone bananas if someone was trying to stop me from having an engagement. Yes, my dad did meet Blake, but at the time he was not my boyfriend. At the time my dad simply didn't care about the friends I had when he met Blake. He did think he was creepy and asked if he was depressed, to which I of course shut down quickly and since kept Blake away from my father. I've only ever had one date when I was 15 before Blake, but never a relationship. He is my first real boyfriend. Sarah did help me get ready for my first date, so I guess she was excited for me. She did not act out like how she did with Blake. As far as I'm concerned, Sarah is straight. She has never confided in me that she might be any other sexuality. She has had boyfriends in the past. She may have been touchy with me, like touching my hand or hitting my shoulder when we share a laugh, but that's about all I can think of. Thank you so much for your suggestions. My sister is currently living with my aunt and I have asked her if she can help me talk to my aunt about this. Did Sarah have her fair share of boyfriends? Could she be jealous of OOP being in a relationship with Blake? Reply. Sarah has had her fair share of boyfriends before. Her last relationship lasted a year before they broke up, which was about 2 years ago. She had moved away from our city after we graduated, so we would mostly FaceTime every other day. This is the first time I've seen her since after we graduated. Blake has been my only boyfriend, so she hasn't had the chance to nitpick people I've dated, but she's never done this to our other friends' boyfriends and girlfriends. I have a feeling this could all be coming jealousy, but why it's only directed at me is what's confusing me on that theory. Commenter 2. If your family and friends are so ready to believe her, that tells me you haven't introduced Blake to them, or not very often. Bit of life advice. Him hiding all his emotions is not healthy and will come out to bite you in the ass at some point. He keeps everything bottled up, likely part of that whole men just get on with it. They're not allowed to cry, laugh, show love or any other positive emotion. They can show only anger, disdain and arrogance, in short, negativity. If you have kids, if you have sons, will you want them to grow up with this same mentality? He needs to learn to trust and express himself more, Or this kind of thing will happen more often. It will damage his ability to go further in life, because no one trusts a closed-off, emotionless person whether he gets therapy or just starts to loosen up. He needs to learn to be more outwardly expressive. He doesn't have to tell everyone his life story or be the life of the party, but he needs to learn he's allowed to smile at things, to chuckle, to shake his head or express himself in some way. Reply: the only person I haven't introduced Blake to as my boyfriend is my dad. He's only met him once as my friend. My friends and my family have met Blake a good amount of times, so for them to suddenly believe Sarah over the times they met Blake makes me question whether Sarah had said something worse that I'm still not aware of, or that they have bad opinions on Blake that they think behind my back, which is what I'm worried for. The topic of us having kids has came up before, and of course Blake does not want our kids to be emotionless or want to hurt me, even though he never has, which is what he's tried to go to therapy for having. That said, it's not easy to undo almost 20 years of having your dad mentally abuse you and drill into your head that men don't show any emotion, and a lot of his therapists haven't helped him. He doesn't want our kids to grow up like he did, so he is still trying. I apologize for not mentioning that part in the post. He does show some vulnerability moments with me. For example, I've seen him cry, full-on laugh, and smile. It's simply just not easy for him to do it to people he's not close with. Commenter 3: I don't know why would he ask someone who had been openly hostile to him all day to help pick a ring for you. Reply: when I was a little girl, I used to love to wear jewelry, though some were plastic and fake. I would always wear rings and necklaces. Sarah and I even had matching friendship bracelets. When I went into 8th grade I stopped wearing jewelry. Since I lost an important ring I have feared of losing any other piece of jewelry since. The reason Blake asked her was because we were supposed to go to the mall for our next hangout, and since she was the only one who saw my jewelry phase, except my sister and my aunt, he wanted her opinion on what he thought I would like. He said had she never visited us he would have asked my sister, but since Sarah was already here he wanted to quickly get the ring, though I now would have preferred if he had waited to just ask my sister, but it melts my heart that he couldn't wait. Commenter 4: I'm guessing those family and friends have always had reservations around his personality, but now that shit-faced Sarah is jumping and hollering around, it's made them think about different interactions with him and blowing them out of proportion. Not that she is owed it, but maybe Aunt, knowing that he comes from an abusive family, if she doesn't already, will help her understand the way he holds himself. More people are so shit, but I'm happy for you both. Did he actually end up proposing or? Reply: she doesn't know about his past, so maybe explaining it could help, but I only would want to do it if Blake is open to sharing it. Thanks for the advice. As for proposal, no, Blake didn't propose yet. He doesn't have the ring, so he won't be able to do it yet. He's a little upset that the surprise is ruined, but I've assured him he doesn't need to be, as I will be surprised the day he goes down on one knee. I'm already squealing at the thought. Stories number 12. She finally left. I've known today was coming for a long time. Months ago I posted for advice about a friends with benefits, 32F, that I, 37M, had. Long story made short, we had a great friendship evolve into a FWB, and over the course of that FWB I fell in love with her. She landed an amazing new job in another state, and had to move. I told her how I felt about her, and that I would be willing to try a long-distance relationship to gauge whether or not there was potential for a full-on long-term relationship, rather than just the FWB. She told me she was not interested in a long-distance, or a long-term, relationship. After that we continued seeing each other, albeit less often. She continued staying at my house several nights a week. We texted every day, called occasionally. She would still cuddle with me for hours on the couch. Anytime I brought up the relationship she was adamant that there was nothing there, and that we were just filling each other's needs, until she left. Despite saying that, she still behaved as though she was my girlfriend, despite adamantly maintaining that she was not. I helped her pack, I helped her pick out an apartment, I made sure her car maintenance was all done so she wouldn't have problems on the drive. She spent one last night with me. We had amazing sex. It was less of our usual "let's make this feel good," and more like making love. I didn't even sleep, I just held her once. She fell asleep afterwards. This morning she got up and put everything in the car. I gave her a hug. When I tried to pull away she wouldn't let go, so I stood in my driveway holding her. I have no idea for how long. When she finally pulled away we were both crying. I gave her a kiss, said goodbye, and told her I would miss her. She said she would miss me too. Then she got in her car and drove away. Odds are she's 400 to 500 miles from here by now, and I will never see her again. I tried to go to work, ended up at my sister's house instead. She grabbed me in a big hug and I sobbed into her shoulder until there were no more tears to come. Someone I love very deeply left my life today, and it hurts more than I can explain. Stories number 13. Aita for cutting contact with my childhood best friend because she demanded that I break up with my fiancé. Hey everyone, I, 21F, cut contact with one of my closest childhood friends, Mary, 21F, a few weeks ago. While I feel relieved she's out of my life, most of my family and mutual friends think I overreacted, and now I'm starting to second guess my decision. I'm going to put some rather irrelevant background information here. Mary and I practically grew up as sisters. We were neighbors, and our parents started arranging playdates for us before we could even walk from kindergarten to secondary school. We did everything together. If I wasn't at her house, she was at mine. I trusted her completely and never thought of her as anything other than my best friend. Things changed when Mary moved away for university. At first, I missed her, but over time, I noticed how much easier my life felt without her constant presence. I wasn't being criticized, guilt-tripped, or forced to justify my choices anymore. It became clear how much control she'd had over me. Mary had a way of dominating every aspect of my life. She'd dismiss my hobbies and pressure me to quit them, and if she didn't like one of my friends, I'd have to cut ties. You could call me a pushover, but when you grow up with someone like that, it's hard to see the manipulation for what it is. Things really came to a head when I met my now fiancé, Dave, 27M. He's amazing, kind, supportive, and everything I've ever wanted in a partner. We clicked instantly, and he's honestly the best thing that's ever happened to me. But, of course, Mary didn't approve. She immediately tried to plant seeds of doubt, saying he was too old, he'd cheat, or he was only using me. Thankfully, for once, I didn't listen to her, and I'm so glad I didn't. In December, Dave surprised me with a dream vacation, and during the trip, he proposed. Everything about it was perfect. He planned every little detail, and it was more magical than I could have ever imagined. I was over the moon and couldn't wait to share the news with everyone. Naturally, I told Mary, expecting at least some excitement, but instead, she downplayed the entire thing. She nitpicked the proposal, saying how she would have done it differently and what could have been better. It stung, but I brushed it off and reminded her that it was my proposal, not hers. A few weeks later, we met in person for the first time in months. That's when things completely fell apart out of nowhere. Mary told me I should break up with Dave. When I asked why, her reasoning had nothing to do with me. Instead, she compared him to her boyfriend, Julian, 22M, saying things like, Dave makes more money than Julian, and Dave can give you everything, while I have to work for what I want. It was clear she wasn't concerned about me. She was just jealous. She couldn't handle the fact that, for once, my life seemed better than hers. That was the breaking point for me. I told her to leave my house, and afterward, I sent her a long message explaining how hurt and disappointed I was. I told her that her behavior was unacceptable and that I didn't want her to contact me again. Since then, it feels like she's told everyone in our social circle. Mutual friends and even some family members have reached out, saying I was too harsh and should have handled things differently. They said, that's just how Mary is. You've known her your whole life. She's always been in the spotlight and gotten what she wanted. Some even accused me of breaking her heart and told me it was wrong to choose my fiancé over a lifelong friend. Even my mom said she expected better of me, and that's what's making me question my decision. Did I overreact? Mary has been a huge part of my life for as long as I can remember. Sure, she has her flaws, but we've also shared countless good times and memories. Am I throwing away years of friendship over this? Should I try to fix things, or was cutting her off the right choice? Since some people in the comments are claiming this story is fake. Unfortunately, it's not. I obviously can't prove it to you, but honestly, what would be the point of making up a story and posting it on Reddit? I've never used Reddit before and have no idea what karma is or why anyone would want it. Also, yes, I let AI correct my text, mainly because I was incredibly angry when I wrote it and just kept rambling. English isn't my first language. Either combine these two things, and you can probably imagine that my original text was all over the place. For clarification, I don't know exactly what Mary told my friends and family since most of the messages I received were pretty vague. I also didn't ask my mom what Mary said had happened. I was too angry to have a calm conversation after my mom told me I was being dramatic, which led to me yelling at her. All I know is that Mary admitted to asking me to break up with my fiancé, but I don't know if she explained why she wanted me to. Lastly, my parents raised Mary like a second daughter, and she's always incredibly kind in front of them. I guess that's why they didn't believe me. Maybe they're just in denial because it's easier for them to handle. I don't know, but I get it. Hearing something bad about someone you like for the first time can make you want to deny it. Update: Aita for cutting contact with my childhood best friend because she demanded that I break up with my fiancé. I've posted another update, for those who are interested. Quick sum up because the update is quite long. I visited my parents today and found out that Mary told them that Dave was cheating on me. My dad ended up believing me, but my mom is still on the fence and unsure of who to believe. Also, everything that's irrelevant to the update is put in italics, so if you're only interested in the update you can skip the italics part. I honestly didn't expect for so many people to read my post and to respond in such a positive way. Since some people asked for an update, which I also didn't expect, I'm going to explain what happened today. Also, just a quick heads up, this is probably going to be all over the place since a whole lot went down and I'm mainly writing this down to understand what exactly happened myself. But first of all, I want to thank everyone who was so kind to share their own stories. It was honestly incredibly mind-blowing to see how many people went through the same thing that I did, and still do, and hearing that cutting contact with their toxic friends was the right thing to do, made me even more sure about my own decision. To all those of you who were calling my post fake, AI, or karma farming, whatever that even means, I'm sorry to disappoint, but it's sadly not any of those things. This is something that's currently happening and I needed to get off my chest. I'm glad that you've never had to go through something like that, but judging by the comments, my story isn't as unusual/unique as I thought and as far-fetched as some of you might think. People often have toxic and narcissistic friends in their lives, especially when people around them have enabled their behavior from a young age, as in Mary's case. I'm also not going to have AI correct my grammar/spelling mistakes this time, so buckle up for some fun sentences. Also, if someone knows any good websites that can correct whole sentences, not just autocorrect, but also grammar and stuff, please tell me which ones there are. Me dealing with technology I've never used before is an absolute shitshow. There's a reason why I'm studying law and not something IT related, lol. I originally didn't want to talk about/justify my relationship. It's simply not what my post is about directly or an issue that I'm currently facing, but I've decided to address it anyway. Why? I don't know, but there were a handful of people in the comments calling my fiancé a pedophile/rapist, or saying that he groomed me, and so on. Most of these comments seem to be coming from a place of concern, which I'm thankful for, but some didn't. So yeah, that's probably why I've decided to explain some things. I wasn't groomed, love bombed or anything like that. My fiancé is an amazing guy who never forced me to anything or rushed me into marriage. Like some comments suggested, I'm marrying him because he's the one I want to spend my future with. Of course, we could have waited a few more years with getting engaged/married, eventually. But what's the point in waiting when I'm, and he too, obviously, sure that he's the right person for me. Marrying at a young age, I'm going to be 23 when we're officially getting married. BTW, isn't for everyone, but it's also not uncommon with some people. You simply have a feeling that it's going to work out great, and when it comes to him, I have that. Some other people also suggested that my parents took Mary's side because they don't like Dave, which couldn't be further from the truth. They love him dearly and have considered him part of the family after a few months of us dating. I'd really appreciate if people who are considering commenting solely on my relationship would refrain from it. It's not what this post is about, it's not the main focus, and I'm set on my decision to be with him. You can think whatever you want about my relationship, but at the end of the day, you don't know either of us or what our relationship is like. But now on to the actual update. We visited my parents around noon today, talked about everything, and tried to understand what had happened exactly. Turns out, Mary really was telling a made-up story while sprinkling in some truth here and there. Apparently she told people, or at least my parents, that Dave was cheating on me with a coworker of his, which is why she told me to break up with him. She said that this affair had been going on for at least 4 months and that she knows about it because she'd seen them together at a cafe in a different city a few months ago. Let's assume this would be true. Why didn't she inform me or my parents sooner? Like, imagine your best friend's, back then, boyfriend is cheating on her and you know about it. Wouldn't you tell her right away? This is also why I can't understand why my parents, especially my mom, would believe her in the first place. According to her story, I got incredibly mad, kicked her out, and haven't spoken to her since. Now, some of it is true, as you should know from my original post. For one, her telling me to break up with my fiancé, as well as me kicking her out and cutting contact. However, the whole story about Dave cheating on me is something I've heard about for the first time today, plus it's completely made up. Just to remind you, she told me to break up with him because Dave's a better boyfriend than Julian, her boyfriend. By the way, I also feel so sorry for him. I can't imagine how much she must push him around. My mom said that she didn't believe Dave was cheating on me, but was disappointed in me for how I handled the situation, especially since I couldn't have known if Mary wasn't telling the truth. She thought that cutting off my best friend for being concerned about me was too harsh and that we should have talked it out. I've also assumed that she's scared to lose longtime friends when I cut contact with Mary, which also turned out to be true. Mary told her mother what happened, who just so happened to be best friends with my mom, and according to my dad, Mary's mother is mad at me for treating her daughter badly and accused my mom of not raising me right, so there's that as well. After my mom explained what Mary had told her, I went on to tell her what really went down: the jealousy, the manipulation, the lies, all of it, basically the things I've said in my original post plus much more. She didn't believe me at first and said that I was blowing things out of proportion, that Mary had good intentions but simply didn't know how to communicate them well. I showed her some text messages between Mary and me, told her about past incidents, and my fiancé tried to back me up as best as he could since my mom wasn't listening at all and kept defending Mary. To say that I dug deep and told my parents about all sorts of things is an understatement. I even went as far as telling them about a sex incident, so yeah, I didn't leave out any details. My dad believed me from the get-go, but my mom kept going back to how great of a person Mary is and how she just wants the best for me. She also kept saying how I've never had an issue with Mary in the past. Not true. And that I'm now creating unnecessary drama because of a misunderstanding. Maybe I'm creating unnecessary drama, maybe not. In my opinion it's necessary, though I've let her do whatever she wanted for far too long. At some point my dad simply told her to shut up and to stop making excuses for Mary, so at least I have one parent on my side. My dad's always been a very non-confrontational person and never really stood his ground, especially when it came to my mom, but I found out that he thought that Mary didn't have a good influence on me growing up. He apparently also told my mom that he wanted to limit the contact between Mary and me when we were younger. But my mom didn't see his point and let our friendship continue. So basically, this whole issue could have been avoided if my mom would have put her friendship with Mary's mother aside for her own family. Great. In the end, my mom said that she'd speak to Mary and ask her if what I've said is true, which honestly pissed me off. After everything I've told her, she still wants to crawl to Mary because apparently, what her actual daughter says isn't good enough. She tried to justify it since Mary is her daughter too, and it's unfair to just hear out my side of the story, alright? But you already had a heartfelt conversation with Mary in which she was lying to you completely. After she said all of that, we started a screaming match. I know, not healthy, but it honestly felt so damn good to just let it all out. To say that I cried heavily out of frustration after talking to my mom is an understatement, and I'm so glad that my fiancé was with me because I sure as hell wouldn't have been able to drive home safely. But, on a good note, I got ice cream and we watched my favorite show when we arrived back home, which made things better. LOL. I've not told my mom that I'm considering not inviting her to my wedding. We're not planning to get married until next year anyway, so there's still enough time for her to make up her mind about who she'd rather believe. Plus I don't want to create too big of a rift between me and her. As for mutual friends who took Mary's side, I've decided not to respond to them. I'm not sure if Mary told them the same story that she told my parents, but I honestly don't care. I don't want to see Mary ever again, or at least not in the foreseeable future, and mutual friends would make that a whole lot harder than it needs to be. Besides, they're not my only friends or close friends of mine. Dave's also okay with me not running after them to clear his name. If this whole situation should leave this friend group and turn public, I'm going to contact them, but right now, we don't see a point in dealing with Mary's minions. That's something someone called these friends in the comments below my original post. Loved it. Right now I'm just hoping that Mary messes up her story somehow and that my mom is going to see her for who she really is while she's been acting absolutely disgusting towards me and basically chooses Mary over me in this situation. I think that I can look past this. It's my mom after all. Cutting off friends is one thing, but cutting off close family? That's a whole different story, and I'll try to mend things the best I can if she's going to stay loyal to Mary. I don't know what I'm going to do, but that's not something I have to think about right now. Once again, thank you for your positive and helpful comments. I've read all of them, but they kept coming in at a rapid speed and I didn't really know how to respond to most. Also, for those who went through something similar, I'm so sorry that this happened to you, and I'm incredibly glad that, as far as the comments go, all of you could find peace in your decision to cut toxic friends out of your lives. Update 2. Aita for cutting contact with my childhood best friend because she demanded that I break up with my fiancé. I just want to say this in advance. I don't know if my dad was telling the full truth. I do believe him, but he might have exaggerated or left things out. It's entirely possible that he lied to a certain extent. I personally don't think that, but then again, most of the things he told me yesterday, I've heard about for the first time and they make him seem incredibly innocent. Maybe he was lying. I don't know, this whole situation just makes me question who I can trust in general. So, we had dinner with my dad last night and it went pretty well overall. We mainly talked about my mom and Mary. Apparently my mom had always been concerned about what others thought about her, but when she met Mary's mother, it reached a whole new level. Mary's mother often criticized my mom for all sorts of things, her parenting style, her clothes, her house, you name it. Whenever it was something that my mom could change, she changed it immediately to appease Mary's mother. That's also why I was put into dance classes when I was younger, because Mary's mother signed Mary up for dance classes, one of many examples. So yeah, as most comments suggested, she's being pushed around by Mary's mom. Is she a narcissist? I don't know, I'm not a psychologist. One thing to know about Mary's family is that they do a damn good job at appearing perfect, happy family, nice jobs, nice house, etc. I guess my mom bought their persona and tried to copy it. I'm not going to trash talk the whole family here, but let's just say that they have just as many flaws as any other family. Also, my mom was apparently talking shit about me to my dad, comparing me to Mary in basically every way, and she even said multiple times that she wished Mary was her real daughter. She also believes that I took away her chance to live her dream life. Fun fact, but according to my dad, my mom's apparently huge on family. She always wanted to have at least 4 children. Ironic. I know she had a pretty traumatic birth experience with me and doctors told her that she shouldn't try for children again. Yeah, apparently she's blaming me for that. She then hoped that she'd get to live her dream through me, basically that I have a lot of children. Bit of TMI right here, but I've mentioned it in the comments a few times already, so whatever. I can't get pregnant, like at all, which means she, luckily, won't get any grandchildren from me. I guess she sticks so close to Mary and Mary's mother because she hopes to be a grandma to Mary's potential children. That's honestly so creepy and messed up in my opinion. but well, we're talking about my mom here. I also feel the need to clarify that I didn't know any of that. My mom never said anything negative about me to my face. Sure, there were some comparisons here and there, but nothing major or something that had an impact on me. It's always been just general stuff that parents tend to do, comparing grades, behavior, skills, etc. She's also never directly blamed me for her inability to have any more children and never said anything bad about me not being able to conceive. This is all just stuff she apparently said behind my back. She's always been pretty alright to me. She most definitely wasn't the best mom ever, but she wasn't horrible either, just a person who, in my opinion, shouldn't have had a child in the first place. My dad also admitted that he'd considered divorcing her a few times, but never went through with it because he was scared that my mom would get primary custody. He's currently considering it again, so let's see how that goes. As for why he never stood up to my mom, he genuinely didn't have a reason for it. He knew that my mom's never said anything like the things above to my face, so he didn't think that he should tell me, at least not until I moved out. He didn't engage in these type of conversations with my mom and kept telling her to stop every time, which caused a lot of fighting between them. I knew that their marriage was messed up, but I always thought this had different reasons. Also, my mom reached out to my mother-in-law and complained about Dave, how he changed me and stuff, referring to me cutting off Mary and choosing my fiancé over my best friend, my MIL, who's an absolute angel. BTW, simply asked her why she's discussing this with her since Dave and I are adults. There's no need to contact her for it. My mom also told her that Mary said that Dave is cheating on me. She then simply told my mom, sounds like Mary's projecting, and hung up. I'm honestly so pissed that my mom tried to involve her in this situation, and I can't help but wonder if she tried to create conflict between my MIL and my fiancé. Maybe she genuinely believes Mary and wanted to warn my MIL, but I guess that would be wishful thinking. For some background, my MIL was a single mom because her ex-boyfriend, Dave's father, cheated on her shortly after giving birth. As you might be able to imagine, she hates cheaters with a burning passion, and my mom obviously knew that. So yeah, I guess my mom talked to Mary, who doubled down, and my mom decided to believe her. I was expecting that this would happen, but honestly, I'm really disappointed. I'm not even sad, angry, or anything, just absolutely disappointed and confused. I'm currently considering sending her one last text before cutting her out for now, but I don't know if I should give her the pleasure of receiving an explanation. I'm still on the fence about cutting ties with her in general, mainly for my dad's sake. Their marriage is rocky already, and although he's considering divorcing her, I'm not sure if he'll actually go through with it. Keeping in contact with one parent while not talking to the other one must put a whole lot of stress on the parent you're still in touch with, and I quite honestly don't want to worsen my dad's home life any further. It's so crazy how I've lost so many people who I considered important to me, in such a short amount of time. This whole situation also made me question other people, like my dad, a whole lot. There were so many people in my life throughout all those years and nobody said anything. Why didn't my grandparents step in? Or my aunt? Or family friends? I can't imagine that they didn't know about any of it, but then again, I didn't either. I also have no idea why I never noticed that my mom held some sort of resentment towards me. Shouldn't I was noticed? I mean, I've been living with her under one roof for 18 years, yet I never noticed/imagined that she actually doesn't like me. Also yes, Reddit became my new diary, lol. Update 3, Aita for cutting contact with my childhood best friend because she demanded that I break up with my fiancé. This is just going to be a small update since not much happened, but I still want to share this because I think it's quite ironic. It's also pretty late at night and I'm staying at a hotel right now, so sorry if some stuff doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I had a gig tonight and Mary's ex-boyfriend, Julian, showed up after the show. Yes, ex-boyfriend. He came up to me and told me that he broke up with her this morning. He then got free drinks for the rest of the night and we had an amazing time at the after party, lol. I've already mentioned this in the comments, but I told mutual friends, who asked, not those who attacked me, what really went down between Mary and me. I guess they've told other mutual friends and it got around to Julian. He asked her if my story is true and Mary apparently got really defensive. After some back and forth, she called him an option that she's keeping around until Dave's single or she finds someone better. He dumped her right there, and then Mary must have spiraled after that because she texted me over a new Instagram account and said that I've ruined her life. I don't believe in karma, but this honestly made my day. Also, I've called my grandparents and they didn't know how my mom really felt about me, which honestly puts my mind at ease a bit. At least I wasn't the only one being oblivious. I guess she did a really good job at hiding her true sentiments. For my parents, I've decided to go LC with my mom and keep in touch with my dad. He's not going to divorce her anytime soon for several reasons. I'm also still on the fence on whether to cut ties with my mom completely or not. While many people in the comments mentioned that they're not in contact with their families anymore, I don't feel ready for that yet. I want to have a conversation with my mom first, just so that I can hear what I've been told by my dad, straight from her, but right now, I don't want to have that conversation, so yeah, I'm basically keeping her around for now. Stories number 14. Aita for telling my fiancé his mom posts thirst traps on Instagram to get likes and attention from men. I, 30F, went to the gym this afternoon. Usually, my fiancé, 31M, and I go together, but he was sick so I ended up going by myself. When I was done, I called him so we could talk while I drove. We don't live together yet. During the call, I was telling him I posted an Insta story showing my legs even though it was upper body day because I was wearing a hoodie and so my arm muscles would not show. It was just a random and insignificant comment, but then he started telling me, as a joke, that I did it for male validation/attention. At first, I laughed and ignored the comment, and said that I liked how my legs looked. He continued, mocking me, saying I needed other men's attention and posted to see if I caught something, and blah blah. I got upset and jokingly replied with, "Your mom." He said, "What?" And I said, "Your mom posts pics to get men's attention and likes." Basically what he just said to me. This is completely false, lol, and I absolutely love his mom. I just wanted to make a point and for him to realize that what he was telling me was offensive and rude. He immediately told me not to involve his mom and that he would hang up on me. I said, "See? It's not a nice thing to say, right? You don't want me to say that about your mom, but it is okay for you to say it about me." He said he was not offended. He just didn't want me to involve other people. I told him he knows it was a rude thing to say, otherwise he wouldn't be mad. I said the same about his mom. He kept saying I was wrong and that if it was a lie, I wouldn't be so offended. I hung up on him because I was so mad. I expected him to call me back immediately to apologize, but he didn't. Was I the asshole? P.S. My picture was not even bad or revealing. It was a mirror selfie and I was wearing a hoodie and shorts. Stories number 15. Aita for wanting to put stickers on a water bottle I was gifted. Alright Reddit, I cannot believe I'm posting about this, but it's caused a fight between my boyfriend and I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, so I need some perspective here. My 21F boyfriend, 25M, just surprised me with a Yeti water bottle out of nowhere. While I'm very appreciative of this, I want to make clear I didn't ask him to do this, and his reasoning was that he thinks someone is going to poison me with the straw style of water bottle I use now. The water bottle in question is brown. They didn't have my favorite color and he bought it at a store that was closing, so no worries, they're not his fault. My favorite color is green and I love plants. At some point I casually mentioned putting some stickers on it to make it feel more like mine and he got upset, telling me it looks childish and that that's unnecessary, and that he didn't want me to. He also mentioned that he may use it and he'd be embarrassed if it had stickers on it. I should also mention that before I found out it was final say, I approached him and asked if it was final sale and then clarified saying I'm grateful for it and I appreciate the gesture, but I was just looking at a similar, cheaper one on Amazon, so if this can be returned, why don't we get that instead? It saves you money. I get one. I want win-win. I can see how this maybe came across wrong and I apologized for it, but it didn't seem to do much. TLDR, boyfriend gifted me a water bottle. I said I want to put stickers on it and he basically told me I couldn't and that it's childish. Update. We've started to talk and apparently it was a gift for us. More to come. We talked. He offered to bring it to a guy he knows to get it powdered coated green. If that would make me happier with it. He still thinks the stickers are childish, but he agreed it's mine and I can do what I want with it. He also said his biggest fear in life is something bad happening to me and he wasn't worried about the cost of the bottle, just that I'm safe and protected. He did also accuse me of being ungrateful because I suggested we return it and he claims I just came up to him and asked if it can be returned. I don't think I did, but I digress. Also, for those curious, the poisoning thing is something he's heard about through the true crime podcasts he listens to. Stories number 16. AITJ for leaving a negative Google review and hurting my doctor's feelings. AITA, for the past 10 years, my family and I have been patients of a wonderful doctor. She's been there for us through so much, and I can't speak highly enough of the care she's provided. When I lost my mom unexpectedly, she helped me navigate a tough time by assisting with FMLA paperwork, short-term disability insurance, and adjusting my depression medication. I am deeply grateful for the support she gave me during that difficult time recently. However, an issue with her office has left me questioning if I handled the situation poorly or if the office could have done more to help me. Here's what happened. A few months after everything was sorted with my FMLA and insurance, I scheduled a wellness check for my 11-year-old daughter about 2 weeks before the appointment. I got a call from the office's billing representative. She informed me that a bill for my daughter's visit over a year ago hadn't been paid because our insurance company had mysteriously changed my daughter's date of birth in their system. The claim had been rejected, and now it was apparently too late to rebill. The billing lady demanded I pay $350 out of pocket or they would cancel my daughter's appointment. I pay $900 a month for my family's insurance premium, so I'll expect them to pay for what they owe. When we get sick, my husband and I both work in public education, so we don't make a lot of money. I told her LD try to fix it with my insurance. Thankfully, the insurance company corrected the error and assured me that the doctor's office could rebill the claim, and they'd process it. I communicated this to the billing rep, but she flat out refused to rebill. This meant I had to go through a time-consuming process with the insurance company myself to get them to pay directly. If you've ever had to deal with an insurance company before, then you know they don't do anything fast or make it easy for you throughout this. I kept the office updated, however. After one of my calls with the billing rep, I found myself locked out of the patient portal. I couldn't access it for days and assumed there were technical issues. After 5 days, I called to find out what was going on and was told I'd been locked out because I owed money. This happened immediately after my last conversation with the billing rep, which made me feel like it was a deliberate action. I've always been on top of my bills and had a spotless payment history with them for 10 years. This situation wasn't my fault, yet I felt penalized when I called the office manager to address it. She didn't return my call for 2 weeks. At this point, I was so frustrated that I wrote a Google review about my experience. I made it clear that my issue wasn't with the doctor but with the office staff and their handling of the situation. When the office manager finally called me back, she said my doctor was deeply offended by the review and wished I had spoken to her first. I was surprised by this reaction. I couldn't have spoken to her because I was locked out of the portal. And I honestly didn't feel like it wasn't her responsibility to deal with administrative issues. I believe her staff should handle those matters professionally. I also mentioned to the office manager that there were several complaints about the office staff on Google as well. She said that they were all disgruntled past employees. Really? All of them? That's quite the coincidence. When they finally opened my patient portal, I messaged my doctor an apology for offending her with my Google review, but I also explained my side of the story. She didn't seem to have a lot of compassion for my side of the story. Am I the asshole? Stories number 17. Over 40 and never dated, starting to feel bitter. Honestly, I'm in my 40s, I've been rejected by hundreds of women in my life without a single success getting a first date. Despite what people will say, it will absolutely destroy your self-confidence and esteem. You'd have to be a sociopath for it not to. When I was a kid, I was fat, and depression from rejection and social ostracizing turned that into morbid obesity. I was 6 feet 6 inches and got up to 500 plus lbs at my heaviest. I either disgusted or terrified women. A few years ago, I lost the weight and gained muscle. It's done wonders for my esteem and quality of life, but I fear I may have done this too late. At this point in life, I'm so far behind, and women my age seem more like they reject me because they simply aren't as social as they were in their younger years. They are coming out of bad long-term relationships, struggling with rent/money, having existential crises, and I'm too inexperienced to talk my way into persuading them otherwise. I don't relate to anyone, least of all other people who claim to be similar. Women will tell me they are in exactly the same situation despite having sex and/or relationships. A lot of men will say similar things as well, and then the men who are in a similar predicament usually have worldviews that correspond with incel rhetoric, which I have no use for. I'll be a year older soon and already have one rejection this year from a woman. I genuinely do not understand how any of this shit works and feel like I'm not allowed to date and experience the same human connections most already did in their teens. I also want to point out that even though I'm a virgin, I don't care about that as a social concept. I don't care for an escort to lose it. I care that being a virgin is a demonstrable consequence of not being able to connect and are up with someone, however brief or satisfying the experience is. Stories number 18. Aita for telling my boyfriend that the tacos he made me weren't good enough. IF22 asked my boyfriend M20 to make me tacos for when I got home later that night. I asked him to brown the ground beef and follow the instructions. He doesn't really cook, but I thought the task was simple enough, so I get home a few hours after he made the beef and things are going well. I quickly chopped the veggies so we could assemble the tacos. I thanked him for making it for me and we started eating. I ate a bite and it tasted really bland and a bit chalky, so I asked if he followed the instructions. He said, "No, I just threw it together with some seasoning." So I asked him why he didn't follow the instructions and he said, "I didn't know what instructions you meant." He could have asked me what instructions. Googled it, looked on the seasoning packet. Anyways, I am kind of a picky eater and I only eat food that tastes good. If food is just meh, I would rather not eat it, and he knows this. Also, I cook different dishes for him all the time and do my best to make sure they taste as good as possible. So I said, "Why didn't you look for the instructions or ask me?" And he said, "I don't care." This is when I got really upset and left the room. He soon followed me and said, "What's wrong?" Probably thinking I was overreacting. Then I told him, "I asked you to do one thing and told you to follow the instructions and you didn't do it. And you know I only eat food that tastes good. I try hard to make you good food all the time and I just wanted you to do it for me one time and you didn't even try." He kinda got defensive and said he thought it was simple and made it how he thought it was made. He said sorry and that he should have known better. But now I feel kinda guilty and like an ungrateful bitch. Aita. Edit. By, I only eat good food, I mean that I take meds and a side effect is low appetite, so I only can eat if it's the exact thing I'm craving or something cooked really well. The food he made was flavorless, so I was disappointed because I wanted the meat seasoned. The taco packet. Update. We talked about it and he meant that he doesn't care about how food tastes. He made tacos before like this, so he thought he already knew how to do it. That's why he didn't look at the instructions and he thought it was fine. He said he will do a better job and next time. Also, he does clean up for me about half of the time, so he does do things for me, but I know I am particular about my food, so usually I cook. However, I was getting home late that night and I wanted something to be ready for when I got back. That's why I asked him. I also thought he could do it because he is a very smart guy and builds furniture for a living. He can follow instructions. Also, I ended up just adding more seasoning and water so it is edible now. I just was tired after a long day and frustrated, so I was being a bit critical and didn't want to fix it in that moment, but we are very happy and he is good to me. This was a little bickering moment and it wasn't that serious of an issue, but I wanted to know if I was being unreasonable or if he really didn't care about me. Now I think it was just a mishap and I could have been nicer about the delivery. Also, I wasn't mad that it didn't taste good. If he followed instructions and somehow it was terrible, I would have been totally fine with it and would have helped to make it another time to teach him. I was upset because I asked him to follow the instructions on the pack and he didn't listen, and he knows that I am limited in what I can eat due to my meds and he didn't put consideration into that. Stories number 19. My family is shocked I'm not forgiving them for victim blaming me and choosing the groper. My sister's married friend groped my chest when he hugged me from behind, then he drunk dialed me a week later to tell me he found me sexually attractive. I told my sister and she got mad at me. She called me a liar, blamed my clothes, said I was flirty with men so I was asking for it and it doesn't count when men are drunk, it meaning sexual harassment/assault. After she berated me for an hour, I got her to admit he's been groping her too. I left her apartment pissed off and crying. The rest of my family got involved and told me to get over it because she's my sister and how I need to keep my mouth shut or I'll hurt the groper's mom and wife. My sister's husband threatened me and said he would make me see him, the groper, again. I stopped talking to them and it's been 4 years. They individually tried to ambush me to force me to forgive them and I've told them to fuck off each time. All of them regret siding with him and want me back in their life. I said they picked him for a reason so he can replace me in the family after all of the victim blaming and guilt tripping. Those MFs never even contacted him again. What was the point of it all? Stories number 20. Stop taking pictures of strangers without their consent. It's creepy. TW. Triggering content. I am a 29-year-old woman. Today I was at the grocery store with my toddler and I caught a complete stranger taking a picture of me. When I caught him I kept staring at him and made eye contact with him without looking away to let him know that I saw him taking a picture of me. He then gave me the stink eye as he walked away. I am unsure if he was taking a picture of me or my son or both, but it still is not okay. And before any of you call me paranoid, yes, there is a trend of people bullying people while secretly recording them or taking pictures of them. It is not okay. I don't even know who he took the picture for, if he is trying to turn me into a meme or set me up for human trafficking or what. I also caught another person that same day also taking a picture of me. She acted nervous when I caught her. I didn't say anything to her, but I know she can tell that I caught her. I also had a similar incident a few months ago where some guy took a picture of my butt while I was bending over looking for something on a shelf at the grocery store. Does this happen to me every day? No, but it always happens when I least expect it. It makes me afraid to stay in the stand still for too long so that nobody has a chance to take a picture of me. Stories number 21. I'm in my mid-30s and realized how fucking stupid a chunk of my life was. When I was about 12, my dad and my stepmom got in a really nasty situation. My brother and I, including dad, ended up living in a campground right next to my school. I actually didn't dislike this. It was in Florida. The weather wasn't shitty. It was like almost a resort, shuffleboard and arcades. Well, my dad got drunk one night and caught a DUI, which meant we got put in protective services. We got put in a foster home in Orlando, on MLK BLVD. I am the whitest blue-eyed blondest hair MF you have ever seen. At the time I went outside once, and the black kids tried to kill me. My brother and I sat there for 5 months. Eventually my mom came to get us to move back to New York. And now I'm 35 and I just realized that not fucking once did anyone ask us if we knew anyone's phone number. I knew my fucking mom's and my grandma's number by heart. So we sat there for 5 months in the scariest place ever, gunshots raining out constantly, which a lady who couldn't cook for shit putting pepper on literally everything for no fucking reason. And now I'm older and bitter with this realization. And moving to New York sucked ass. As a Florida surfer kid, that was rough. Edit. I appreciate the support. I guess I'm just thinking back about how fucked some things were growing up and I thought I let most of it go. But I guess not. This is just one of the many instances my parents failed me. Oh, and to some of you who don't understand anything, if you're halfway across the country, you don't just pick up a telephone book. No one ever asked me if I knew anyone else to call, and there was one phone in the house and it was in the lady's bedroom and I wasn't allowed to use it. So yeah, I just had to sit there scared as fuck every day for months not knowing what's going to happen. Stories number 22. Aita for cutting my dad's favorite shirt in half with scissors during an argument when he told me I'm not his daughter. IF21 got into an argument at home with my parents, my dad M52 and my mom F44. For some context, I've been living in and out of the house for some time now. My parents are incredibly abusive and manipulative and I just so happen to be the middle child and only daughter. The only person in the house who I have any semblance of a normal relationship with is my older brother, my younger one being the clone of my father. My father often yells as a means of asserting his place in the house. He's always yelled at us and always made us feel small. My older brother and I facing the brunt of it growing up, and my younger brother being the spoiled one who they seem to coddle and baby the most. Over the years I've come to realize my dad yelling is his way of controlling us, He yells because it makes him physically bigger than us, and so we've always hated it. Today my mother and I were sitting in her room when I asked her why my father had been yelling at my younger brother in the middle of the night as it had woken me up. We live in a flat, so my dad heard me, and then I guess he got offended and he started yelling at me to shut up. We started arguing and I told him not to yell at me and that I didn't appreciate him talking to me like that, especially seeing as we're both adults. The argument began spiraling and I was telling him, how can you look at your daughter and speak to her like that? And then he shut the door in my face and said that he has no daughter. That's when I felt all the rage just boil over. I walked up to his dresser and found the shirt I had gifted him with my first wages when I was 16, and I grabbed a pair of scissors and tore it in half. We're still not on good terms, but my mum tells me he feels bad because he liked the shirt, but I got no sincere apology. I feel bad about it. So Aita. Stories number 23. Am I the asshole? Recently, I, 47M, attended a NYE party at a friend's house with my girlfriend, 33F, friend recently had a child and girlfriend was holding then baby and she's loving every moment. Along comes my other friend's wife to talk to my GF. To which she says to my GF that GF should decide what she wants because it's believed I don't want any more children. I have talked to my GF about having children. It would be more for me because I have 3 from a previous marriage. I'm okay with having another child and myself, and the GF had talked about it. So here's where I supposedly become the AH. I call my friend's wife a cunt for telling my GF she should break up with me. I apologize immediately to my friend, but I'm still annoyed. Friend's wife now is heated with me and she punches me in the kidney 6 times. So, am I the asshole because my friend's wife told my GF to break up with me? Stories number 24. Aita for pushing a severely autistic kid after he touched my wife's shoulder and tried hugging her. Shitpost. I am 55M and my wife is 52F. I have been with my wife for over 30 years, 1993, and married for almost 28, 1997. We also have 5 children born between 1998 and 2005. We were out on a date at a restaurant in the next town over and we were having dinner at OUE table when a couple and some kid maybe around 10 to 12 walked inside, and the kid came to our table and started waving and said hi in a weird voice. I waved back awkwardly and my wife waved back as well. He then complimented my wife's coat and reached in for a hug, then started making these quiet but weird noises. After that the dad leaned in over and told the kid to come with to their table. He apologized for his kid who was severely autistic and that he wanders off randomly. A bit later my wife went to the bathroom and I was finishing my meal and the same kid came back and waved and said hi. I waved back and then he asked where my wife went. Before I could finish he ended up smiling and hugging me on the side. That angered me a lot since I almost dropped my fork in my meal. I snapped and told him to stop touching me and my wife and that I would call the police on him and his family if it continued. He then looked sad and I told him if he screams or cries I would put my hand over his mouth and scold him more. As I was saying this his mom and dad came back and told me I was being a jackass and why I was screaming at their kids so loudly. I explained what happened but they said it wasn't an excuse. My wife told me I should have been calmer but I was defending her. At the point I was angry and didn't want to finish my meal, so I quickly called a waiter over and paid and told my wife we had to leave. Aita for defending my wife and scolding the kid off. Stories number 25. Something interesting I noticed in all of these demonic possession cases, other than the fact that in a lot of these cases, it wasn't demons, but genuine health issues. Have you noticed that the demons always seem to possess religious people? Not even important figures like the Pope or something, it's always just a random person. You'd think that disbelief, apostasy, witchcraft, etc. being such horrific sins in a lot of religions, you'd be the most at-risk group for demonic possession, but I have yet to hear, let's say, an atheist or agnostic being possessed by demons. Also, in many of the cases in which people claim to dream of demons, well, dreams are a manifestation of our subconscious. If you consume a lot of media depicting demons or other hell figures, or gaslight yourself to being scared shitless of demons, yeah, no kidding, you'd probably dream, or even lucid dream, about them. Doesn't mean you're possessed. Stories number 26. Am I the jerk refusing to help my sister pay for her wedding? So, here's the situation. I, 28M, have a sister, 26F, who is getting married in a few months. We've always had a bit of a rocky relationship growing up. She was the golden child, always getting what she wanted. And I often felt like my needs and accomplishments were overlooked in comparison. This became even more apparent when we both started getting older, and I noticed that whenever she had a problem or wanted something, it was always expected that I'd be there to support her, even when it was inconvenient for me. Now, she's planning this huge wedding, like, really extravagant. She's talking about a destination wedding, fancy venues, a designer dress, the whole works. She's already racked up a huge bill, and a couple of weeks ago, she came to me asking for a loan of $10,000 to help cover some of the costs. She mentioned how my other sibling, who has a lot more money than I do, had already agreed to contribute, and it's just expected that I'll do the same. Here's the thing, I don't have that kind of money lying around, and I've been working hard to pay off student loans and save for my own future. I didn't feel comfortable dipping into my savings for something that I feel is, frankly, a bit excessive. I politely told her I couldn't afford it, but she became really upset and said that family helps each other out, and that I should be there for her. especially since she helped me when I was in a tough spot a couple of years ago. I had a health issue that set me back financially. I tried to explain that while I appreciated her past help, I'm not in a position to help with her wedding, and I don't think it's reasonable to expect me to give such a large sum. She got really angry and started telling the rest of the family that I was being selfish and unsupportive. Now, most of my relatives are siding with her, saying I should just make it work for family. I'm feeling really conflicted. I know it's her big day, but I don't think I should have to sacrifice my financial stability for it. Am I the jerk for refusing to help pay for her wedding? Stories number 27. Aita for telling my girlfriend I have every right to defend my home after someone started kicking my door in. I, 27M, and my girlfriend, 26F, have been together for 2 years. I'm a black man raised in the inner city, she's a white girl from the suburbs. We grew up different, and normally that's okay, but last week someone tried to break into my house and it started causing problems. I'm taking care of my mother now that she's getting up in age. She just had surgery on her legs and cannot walk. I need to stress this. She physically can't support herself, so I'm doing everything for her. Her bedroom is in the back of the house right next to the back door that leads to the porch. At 2 a.m. last Wednesday my mom calls me scared, saying someone's trying to break into the house and she can hear them banging on the back door. My girlfriend was staying with me in my bedroom when I got the call. I jumped up, grabbed my gun and ran to the back and started yelling for whoever was there to get away because they were still banging on the door. When I got there things got quiet, so I checked the camera on the porch and I saw them standing there. It was 3 people and one of them said keep going, it doesn't matter. So I used the speaker on my camera to say I have a weapon, it's loaded, and if you kick that door one more time I will shoot. My girlfriend is behind me at that point screaming not to shoot them and it isn't worth it. The 3 people on the porch don't move, so I put my phone down, cock my weapon and say I'm going to count to 3 and if you aren't gone by the time I get to 3, I'm firing. As soon as I counted 1 they ran away and my girlfriend was screaming at me that there's never a reason to threaten to shoot someone ever. I told her we are not having this conversation right now and we need to call the police. Yes, I should have done earlier, but I was too worried about my mother to think about it. The police get called, they come out and see shoe prints on my fence and on the back door from where they were kicking and start patrolling the area but don't find them. When the police leave my girlfriend starts yelling at me and saying she can't believe I'd be willing to shoot someone because they kicked my door. I said it isn't about the house, it's the fact that my mother is laying in bed helpless just a few feet from that door and they could have done anything, stole things, killed her, raped her, a combination. I have no idea and I wasn't taking any chances. She says there is never a reason to hurt or kill someone, ever, because violence isn't the answer, it just makes you like the person you're hurting. I told her the only reason she thinks violence isn't the answer is because she's never had someone try to physically harm her before, and I'm not going to apologize for what I did because I had every right to defend myself, my home, my mother, and her. She's been angry at me ever since and will barely even speak to me. I'm trying to consider her perspective, I really am, but I'm not going to give up my ability to defend myself because she doesn't believe violence will ever be necessary. Ada. Stories number 28. Aita wife wants to travel without luggage for Valentine's. I do not. We are a married couple, 30M and 30F. We are planning a trip for Valentine's to Europe from London where we stay. My wife chose Vienna and found a flight with Ryanair priced at £60 return each. She suggested we should take that flight for a 4-day trip. The flight doesn't include any luggage. With cabin luggage the flight is worth £120 each and she said we can manage without the luggage. She said she wants to experience traveling for a cheap amount and doesn't want to spend too much. For context, we are high earners and live way below our means, so this is not due to a budget constraint. I suggested that we should at least be able to take some cabin baggage as I don't like traveling without clothes, especially for a 4-day trip. We got into an argument and now she wouldn't talk to me. I told her I wouldn't want to go for a trip if this is how we would be traveling. Am I the asshole? Stories number 29. Tofu by accidentally convincing my roommate we're getting married. Alright, so a little backstory for context. I moved in with my roommate about a year ago cause the rent in this city is ridiculous, and finding a decent roommate was like winning the Hunger Games. We clicked super fast, same sense of humor, same obsession with Thai takeout, and somehow, we never fight about cleaning. A miracle, honestly. Last night, we were chillin' on the couch, watching this cringe rom-com, one of those friends to lovers plots where everyone knows they're gonna end up together except them. I was feeling extra goofy and blurted out, "Yo, we should just get married, like, why are we wasting time?" He laughed, so I thought it was just a vibe, like, platonic banter, you know. Fast forward to this morning, I'm half asleep in my hoodie, face deep in coffee, and he walks in with the most serious expression holding a bread twist tie. My guy had turned it into a ring. He goes, "So, were you serious last night?" I nearly choked on my coffee like, "Sir, what? I thought we were joking." My brain just blue screened while he stood there all hopeful. I panicked, laughed it off, and mumbled something about needing a real diamond if we were gonna do this right. Now I'm low-key avoiding him cause IDK if he's embarrassed, mad, or planning our wedding. It's awkward AF. TLDR, made a dumb joke about marrying my roommate, and now he thinks I was serious.